whole IMVU.
Right.
Does it mean instant messaging virtual universe, like we all say, the
Uh-huh.
users, or is it just junk, like the founders of IMVU actually say?
All right. Hello, everybody. Miyaka here. Welcome to my second installment of Meet the Creator. Today we are talking to JazzKat. Can everyone hear me, first of all? Because we're having some technical difficulty, if you know what I mean, and stuff. So give me a thumbs up or a hi if you can hear me. If not, if you just hear my lips moving, and yeah, I see. Can you hear me? Question mark. You can hear. Well, of course you can hear. You're already in my ear. Not getting the responses I'm looking for, people here. Come on. Give me it. Jimmy, say you can hear me or not. Just say yes. Just give me a yes. Well, thank you, nurse. I got one. Yay. All right. So now that we got that good. All right. So I have JazzKat with me, and you guys know JazzKat as one of the first members of the creator in residency. So awesome for him. He also has a YouTube channel and a Twitch channel, and he has lots of other content throughout the interwebs where he makes Blender tutorials and he does stuff for gaming and IMView. He's just a very helpful guy in general, all around very useful fellow. I'm gonna actually pop his website in here. The Toilet Paper King. So you guys would know him as Cat Spits on most of his internet stuff. COVID royalty. So let me introduce you here, Mr. Cat himself. Hello! Glasses, yay! Oh, well, I'm assuming with the toilet paper thing. Yes. Welcome, sir. I'm so happy to have you on my brand new show. Yay. Number 2. You're the second one. It was Gaff, and Gaff was an awesome guest. It was very nice talking to him. Yeah, he was. It was really. I love his voice. Honestly, he's got a really nice accent. So do you. You also have a very nice accent. I find my accent to be very northern, and it irritates me sometimes when I listen to my voice on the YouTube. I'm like, why am I? Yes. They can't hear you, Cat. They should. Let me change something here. Yes, but hold on. Yeah, technical difficulties. Let's see. Default microphone, default speakers. Settings. It was, let's see, audio. Default speak. Okay. Okay. Yes, you do sound Canadian, Jimmy. Please hold.
Yes. Please hold whilst we are connecting your call.
A Floridian hillybilly. Yes. Someone please acknowledge.
What?
Not you.
Oh.
I have definition audio. Hey Toki, welcome. I always say, I don't know if I'm saying it wrong. I changed the setting and I don't know if there's so many settings to play with. System sound. Default speakers, default communication speaker.
Are you using OBS?
Microphone. No, I'm using XSplit.
Oh, okay.
Audio system. Oh, they can hear him.
What?
But you're quiet. Okay. All right. I get it now. All right. They can hear you now.
Oh, okie dokie.
So I'm going to. All right. Now talk to me.
Hello.
Okay. Now we can hear him. Everybody's good? Hello? Hello? All right. I'm assuming that they can hear you now. I turned. Yeah. All right.
Yeah.
Success. You have arrived, Kat.
Woohoo!
You've arrived. Welcome. So now that we have everything in order, shall we begin?
Yes, let's.
Yes, let's begin. All right. So I have a few questions for you.
Okay.
Prepare yourself.
We'll do it live.
We're doing it live. We were talking about dialects, but now we're moving on to questions.
Oh, yes, we were talking about, yes, yeah.
And then we got interrupted. We were talking about, we were saying like the voice and the head thing.
Oh, yes, yes. So your voice doesn't sound the way that you think it sounds because you don't have the resonance of your skull when you listen to your own, because when you hear yourself speak, you have resonance because of your skull. So when you hear your voice back, it's absent that resonance. So it never sounds like you. But that's also, you've got the, I don't like listening to my own voice because I can hear my mispronunciations. And
yes.
that really, that's the thing that does my head in. It's not so much the sound as it is I can hear where I'm mispronouncing words or not pronouncing things clearly. And that's my big bugbear.
Oh, I noticed that there's certain letters or vowels that I pronounce.
Yes.
And like I started I started overemphasizing certain vowels just because I thought it was funny, and then it became a part of my dialect unintentionally. And that's what irritates me when I hear it on the YouTube video. When I say my O's, they're so O-like. I'm like, they're not supposed to be so O. I'm from Wisconsin, and yes, we do have a very O loud, but my voice is more Wisconsin than the people that I live with, just because I've done that.
Well,
Don't you know?
Say good luck.
Good luck.
Yeah, see that for me, if I say that without thinking, it'll come out completely differently. It'll either sound Yorkshire, which is where I'm actually from, or the consonants and the words will sort of blend together. And if I'm recording a tutorial and I have to say something like good luck, I have to really think about the pronunciation of it because it doesn't come out the way that I want it to. And that's where you are 10 minutes trying to say 2 words.
I also find myself doing more of an English accent sometimes, but
yes,
I don't even know where I sound like I don't know, but it's like my Fair Lady.
Well, yeah, there's a lot of it is just to do with, particularly with the tutorials. It's not, it's just wanting to be clear with whatever explanations you are talking about,
Right.
because it's often, well, you know this more than anyone, that it is a very technical language when you start talking about 3D stuff.
Uh-huh.
So you have to be very clear with the things that you are talking about, so that whatever it is you're explaining comes across clearly.
Exactly. But I think of My Fair Lady. It's like, the rain in Spain falls mainly on the plain. Or you go, the rain in Spain falls mainly on the plain. It's just like.
It's funny how everybody, whenever I hear an American do an English accent, it always tends to fall into that sort of weird Cockney Mary
Yeah, well,
Poppins.
that's where you hear it
All right,
from,
Mary Poppins.
Oh, jolly good show, yeah. It's all right. Would you be comfortable giving us your real name?
No, I shall remain anonymous.
All right.
Everybody knows me as Kat, so Kat is the thing.
Kat. Your name
Yeah.
is Kat.
Well,
What about?
go on,
What?
sorry. No, I was. I mean, there is a story behind it, but I'm not sure
Okay.
it goes way back, decades, in fact.
Oh.
Revealing one's
Goodness.
age.
Would you be willing to reveal your age?
I am 50 plus.
50 plus.
Yes.
So you're in the 50s range.
Yes, low 50s.
Oh, well, you're not. Okay. You're about where I thought you would be, which isn't bad. That, wow. Considering experience in life.
Yes.
It's just the amount of stuff that you know. The more know, the more age you add on you.
Yes.
And of course, Nurse is super happy because she's still super young, but
well,
she doesn't realize how young she is. She thinks she's old, but she's young.
Was mid 20s, late 20s?
She is in her late 30s.
Late 30s? Oh, well, that's a baby.
Yes, which is still a baby. Like once you pass, I don't know, once you pass any decade mark, you're like, well, everyone under you is a baby.
Yeah.
So, but I mean, I'm 41, so.
Yeah. No, it's. I mean, the knowledge thing isn't so much of the age as being profusely. I read a lot of books, or I used to read a lot of books. Obviously, before the internet, in the before times, just used to read a lot of books.
The before times.
The before times. I remember the days before the internet.
Me too. You probably remember it better.
Yeah, I remember the dial-up modem noise, which
Oh yeah, I mean, see, I like to tell my
sound
kids.
Of horror.
Yes. Oh God, I like to tell my kids, like, you grew up with so much fastness everywhere,
yes.
like, because I grew up at the beginning of the internet.
Yes.
So,
everything was slow.
Yes. So that was my childhood. It was like
the
start of the internet, and now where we are now. But my kids have been alive through the internet, so they don't even like dial or not even dial up. Like,
yeah, it's going to be
fast.
It's going to be it's already crazy with the amount of information that they have access to that they just completely ignore. So
yeah, well, like when I was growing up, my every time I had a question to my father, he said, "Go look it up in the encyclopedia." I'm like, but you're right here and you know the answer. So I don't even have to ask my dad anymore. I have a question, I ask the internet.
Yeah.
I don't go to the encyclopedia, I go to Wikipedia.
Oh, well, yeah, that's a reliable source for certain things, but not everything.
Right. So, where are you from right now? Where do you live? Like, generally?
Well, England, right. Yorkshire.
Yorkshire.
Yeah, that's basically in the middle.
In the middle.
In the middle, roughly.
Is this where you grew up?
Yes, born and bred.
Yeah. So always been there. Born there, die there type situation.
Yeah, probably yes. Yes, probably. Probably.
What do you like about the area?
Yorkshire. North Yorkshire, which is where I am, is the relative to Americans. It's the biggest state in the UK. The biggest. It would be a state. Yorkshire. but we have a very interesting history. We were doing the civil wars and all that kind of stuff long before you guys ever thought of it. You probably got your ideas for your civil war from ours, but
Maybe.
Yorkshire has it is supposed to be. I mean, there's a lot of it's very touristy, so a big tourist destination. If you are not doing the whole capital city London thing, is a lot of people gravitate up to Yorkshire because it's quite easy to access by rail and road, but it's England or Britain's market garden, I suppose you could say. It's very very nice countryside, very nice people.
That's nice. I like country.
Yes. Well, in a former life, I used to be a traditional painter, artist,
Ooh.
so landscape paintings and stuff like
Oh.
that. Oh
Do you have any of those?
no,
Like, do you
no,
keep no?
no, they're
No?
not online. No,
Oh, too afraid to share, or just in
no,
your
no, no, no,
life,
no,
or
no. It's copyright.
oh, gotcha. Okay.
Copyright. I've
Mm-hmm.
been copyright has been. I mean, uh, those of the listeners, viewers that know me, Kat, know that know of my interests in defending copyright and, being quite an advocate for creators knowing and understanding their rights I mean, this is not just within IMVU, but outside IMVU, but even in the slow days, the before times of the internet, when the internet was starting, as soon as you start uploading images to the internet, you're asking for trouble. If you make money from your images or your creations, you are asking for trouble. And of course, we've got now, just recently, we've had the AI art controversy,
Mm-hmm.
where
Yes.
all the artists are complaining about AI art scraping their content from the internet. And it's like, well, yeah, it's bad that they're doing it, but you have to be responsible for your copyright. You can't give that right, because that's essentially what you're doing. You're asking somebody else, another platform, to act as your agent, and they don't have that right unless you assign it to them. And if you do that, there are all sorts of responsibilities and obligations that go along with that. So whilst all these artists on social media are complaining about AI art scraping their content, not a single one of them is doing anything to mitigate that problem from their own point of view. And that
Mm-hmm.
might be, uh, something as simple as not using these, the forums, the art forums, as portfolios where you're uploading 3K images, high resolution images.
Mm-hmm.
What you should be doing is, if you're going to upload, is just upload something that's relatively low res, that's not going to be usable to something like an AI that's producing these high res, you know, because at the end of the day, the AI only works on what it can input. So what is it? Garbage in, garbage out.
Right.
So
Right.
if it only gets garbage in, its output is going to be garbage and it'll be completely useless. But people just, they don't have their own portfolios, they don't have their own websites, they don't understand how to use social media to redirect traffic to their own websites and their own content. So what happens? They end up making money for other people because their content gets scraped.
Very true. Very true. It's good
So
insight.
yeah, it's yeah, I understand that, but I mean, that's a long-winded way of saying that no, never. I did in the very early days, but I quickly understood what that meant. If you have your images online, somebody will lift it and put it on a t-shirt and sell it.
Yeah. They got all these royalty-free
Yes.
websites and stuff, and it makes you wonder, like, all of these images on these royalty-free websites, did they come from somebody who was willing to give that image away for free, or was that image scraped from somewhere else?
Yes.
There's really no way to tell.
Yes, and even the solutions that people are proffering with, because hand in hand with the AI art problem is the potential solution of registering your copyright. So you are registering your claim of authorship over something, and or attributing blockchain to that in a similar way to the way that IMVU is working with NFTs.
Mm-hmm.
But all that does in both the registering, let's say with the you have what is it, the Copyright and Patent Office in the States. I think that's what it's called.
The patent.
Patent, yeah. So that's where you would, if you wanted to formally register your copyright, you would make an application to the. You don't necessarily need to with copyright, but if you wanted to, that's who you would register it with. But all that does is register a claim. That's all it does. It's not necessarily proof that you are the author of a particular piece of work. It just registers you as the claimant as being the author. So you would then have to go through different, legal processes. If there were any problems, you would then have to go through the courts to actually prove that you were the author of something. Blockchain, in the same way that the NFT stuff with IMVU, the blockchain is similar. You can register that you have a claim over something, but the blockchain doesn't prove that you are the author. It just is a receipt, if you like, of that claim being made and registered on the blockchain. Right. So again, if you were to actually try and prove that you were the author of something, you'd have to go through, a legal process.
Right.
But, so it's... Go on, sorry.
But yeah, I was just agreeing with you.
All right. No,
yeah, there's a lot. There's a lot of working parts.
It's a very. I mean, this is the thing with the internet. It's for content creators, it's very messy.
Right. The Digital Millennium Copyright Act was supposed to kind of help with that, but it's still it's arbitrary.
It's not for creators. It's for corporations. It was put in place by corporations for corporations. People that entities, legal entities that have legal teams on staff that process that stuff 24/7. And they are anonymized by the fact that it's associated with a legal entity. So you have agents that act, it's like the IMVU has its DMCA agent.
Yes.
We don't know who that is as a person, but we do know that IMVU has a DMCA agent who processes all the copyright stuff. So everything goes through them, but individuals do not have that. You can't hide your identity by, as an individual, you can't hide your identity. The requirements of DMCA require you to identify yourself. So you're basically doxing yourself. And of course, as we all know on IMVU, that anybody that sends through a DMCA claim doesn't necessarily mean that they are the legit owner of the work that's being claimed. And we all know this. And of course, from our perspective, as the true authors, air quotes, of something, we have to dox ourselves in order to process that claim. Whereas a corporation doesn't, well, it's not doxing itself. How does a corporation dox itself? But, so it was never meant for us. It's a corporatization of copyright.
Right. Is there anything interesting or unique about your family life or early childhood that you want to share?
No, it's pretty average, pretty normal. We did sports, just, average grades.
Just average.
Just
the average Joe.
Yeah, average Joe.
Well, how would your friends and family describe you? Average?
Yeah, actually, yes. My report cards from my teachers were well, not. They didn't use the word average. It's uh, uh, I think it's they would say um, uh, could do better. You
Oh,
know, he is X, but could work harder.
ah, that's
So you know, so,
yeah, that's funny.
yeah, just pretty average.
Um, so what do you like to do in your spare time?
What's that?
Spare time?
Yeah,
If you
what is this thing you are?
if you had the chance to have a hobby, what would this hobby be?
spur.
Would you be like a stamp collector? Go for walks on the beach
Well, I do
with
have a
a good
stamp
book?
collection. I do
Oh, you
actually
do?
have a stamp. I do, yes, yes.
Ah.
It was it was bequeathed to me
Oh,
by a friend, relative. Well, like family. Your mother's fathers. They have good friends, and they actually refer to them as uncles or aunts
yeah,
rather
yes.
than
Oh,
So
yes.
they're a family friend um, that was into collecting stamps, and before they passed on, they passed the collection on to me. And there's it's a global collection, so there are stamps from all over the place, and it's it's in storage somewhere. I don't know where it is. I haven't looked at it for a long time, but yeah, I do actually have a stamp collection. I also have a collection of postcards,
Oh, are,
and that was bequeathed to me by somebody else as well. They did it because of the stamps on the postcards.
is there anything that you collected on your own, and or is everything
Actually,
that
I
you
sound a
have
bit like a nerd.
everything you've collected has been given to you? It sounds like
Yeah, yeah, I'm good that way. Yeah,
people like to just give you their stuff.
yeah, they like to just give me this stuff. Must be the voice. I'm
It must.
terribly sorry, but yeah, no, they do. Just get no, it's a it. I guess I suppose it's just a question of you know, older people seeing in you have an interest in something that they have an interest in. So they just bequeath stuff to you when they have no need for it, or they otherwise it just goes in the trash.
Right.
Because you give it to a charity shop. It's like with books. Books are the same. Who reads books these days? And any books that you give to a charity store, they keep on the shelves for 6 months and then just send them off to the recycling because they can't keep them. They can't store all those books. In fact, actually, that's one of the things that really irks me. That because books are, as we all know, very important, whether they're fiction, non-fiction, whatever it is.
Mm-hmm.
So I had a load of books been trying to get rid of, called the local library, and they wouldn't take them. Free books. They wouldn't take free books. You know why they wouldn't take free books?
Why?
It takes too long to catalogue them.
What?
Yeah.
Okay. The thing with all the digital books is they're easily uh, deleted.
Yes.
You can't delete a physical. The only way you can delete a physical copy is by destroying it. But
Yes. Well, the irony of didn't Amazon, I think a couple of years ago now, they deleted 1984 from people's devices.
did they? I didn't
Yeah,
hear about that.
it might have been another. I can't remember if it was 1984, but it was a book like that of that ilk. Talking about authoritarian regimes, and they deleted it from people's devices. So
Wow, that is scary. I mean, some of that stuff is kind of scary. Like you
yeah,
can't like the book banning and stuff. Like you can't erase history.
Yes.
I don't know.
Erase history.
It's
Yes.
can't do
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, nurse says that she got it deleted and she was pissed. But I mean that sucks too. They didn't
Yeah. It
even
was
reimburse
1984.
you
Yeah.
for it.
Yeah. No, I don't know if they reimbursed. They
She
just,
said no. Nurse just said that she didn't get her money back,
yeah.
or she
So,
had the copy and they deleted it and she get her money back. That
yeah.
is kind of ridiculous.
Yeah.
That is kind of
So
ridiculous.
that's, so if you, so here's the thing, right? Um, if you want to read books, the best thing to do these days, if you're going to read digital copies of things, is get digital copies of books that are in the public domain. So there's Project Gutenberg, is the one to use. They have a lot of the old, so we're talking things that are, it's 70 years, I think it is. Any book, so you're basically talking anything 1800s, 1900s, and then maybe up to the 1920s or 30s.
Mm-hmm.
Any book published within that range is in the public domain now, and you can download. You might, well, it depends if the copy's available, but they have PDFs or EPUB .epub versions of those books that you can download, and they will be on your device, and nobody can remove them unless you do.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, it's you know
Hmm. I think there's a few websites like that, but yeah. Um. Yeah, I don't know. That's a lot of power
yes,
in that.
yeah.
All right, moving on. What is your dream job?
I'm kind of doing it.
You're doing your dream job. That's awesome. That is awesome. I
Oh
was
yes,
thinking about
hobbies. You would
oh the question about
the
hobbies.
question was about hobbies. No, well, yeah, I mean, that's a follow-on. I do it. I'm doing the hobby. It's just being creative. Whether
Mm-hmm.
that's in 3D, music, painting, whatever it was. You know, it's that's yeah. So it's living the dream.
Maybe oh, I was when I wrote that question down, I was thinking about it myself. I'm like, what is your dream job? I'm like, I'm kind of doing it, you know.
Yeah, 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 yeah,
I wonder if he's the same.
yeah.
Yes. Um, what was your favorite subject in school?
Um, I can tell you the one that I was the best at. That was technical drawing or
Technical.
engineering drawing. Yeah,
That makes
engineering
sense.
drawing. And
That
of course,
makes
we're talking pre-internet days, so that's pencil and paper, people,
aha.
and rulers and protractors.
Nice.
Yeah, so technical drawing. In fact, one of my it's one of my friends. He studied. So basically, I did in 1 year what it took him, I think, 2 years to do. He was very annoyed at that. So
Like you're too good. I hate you.
yeah, no, well, no. The funny thing is, so here's the thing. So yeah, I am essentially living the dream, but living the dream also includes all the tutorials and the teaching and the mentoring.
Mhm.
For some reason, that's been the thing. That's been a theme throughout everything I've done ever. When I was in, I think you would call it high school, so high school, so 16, 17, 18.
Yes.
Used to teach the younger kids racket sports, badminton, squash, tennis, stuff like that. So, there's mentoring, tutoring, teaching, coaching, and that goes all the way up through technical drawing. When I was doing my art course, general art and design, a class of maybe 40 people, not a single one of them. We're talking art school, students that are there to learn art that understand or have done art to varying degrees, and not a single one of them understood perspective.
Wait, what? That was something that they teach
Well, here's the
in art
thing.
class.
Yeah, it's you can understand perspective, but it's the drawing it out. And I used to have to use my technical drawing expertise to explain perspective to people, to fellow students in the class, because a lot of them couldn't grasp. Because it's like a corollary is switching from 2D, like drawing a chest, a treasure chest.
Mm-hmm.
The corollary would be drawing a treasure chest in 2D and then trying to make that in 3D. People understand, if you have the 2D background, you can understand the perspective, relatively speaking, to the 2D illustration. But when it comes time to flip that into 3D, it causes people a lot of trouble, because they don't have that that 3D, 3-dimensional spatial awareness, and it's one of the things that trips up a lot of people. Oh yeah, I figured somebody would think that narcissistic as soon as I said the word chest.
That's why you specified treasure chest. I got that. I was like,
Treasure
that's
chest. Yes.
just think of a chest.
Har, me hearties.
Oh,
That kind of treasure chest.
yes.
But no, but it's funny in the sense that it mentoring, coaching, teaching, for want of a better word, has always been it's a common thread through everything that I've done, and it's always been there. But I don't like teachers. So, I wouldn't have been a very good teacher, actual teacher in school.
It's more of a mentor type
Yes.
situation.
Yes.
One-on-one.
Well,
or
yeah,
1-on-3
one-on-one,
or
groups.
small groups.
Yeah. Well,
Not
the way
not a
that
lecture hall.
No, because it then starts to become it's too detached.
Yes.
It's, you might as well just be watching a video at that point.
Right. What's your sign? Sounds like I'm trying to hook up with you.
Yeah. It's Aquarius.
Aquarius? Do you actually fit the description?
Yes, I do, actually.
Do you? I always wonder about that.
I'm not going to tell you my real name, but if you knew my real name, you'd understand that it fits that as well.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Have you ever taken the Myers-Briggs personality test?
No.
No.
I've heard of it, but I haven't taken
It's an interesting way to find out about just your general personality. I don't know. I don't think it's like a set in stone permanent thing, because people are always changing, and I think you
Yes.
can kind of shift from one entity to another.
Yes.
But would you consider yourself an introvert or an extrovert?
It depends on the topic.
Generally speaking, like, do you like to be in crowds or
no,
not?
No, I don't know. No,
Yeah, so that would make you more of an introvert.
Small groups, individuals, small groups where there is, you can, because it's like, it's an attention thing, I guess, because it's like, when I have conversations with other creators, whether they're on IView or anywhere else, if I've had a voice chat, they'll often have the radio on in the background. I can't do that. I can't.
It's more of an attention thing. Yeah.
Yeah. If I hear somebody speaking, I have to focus my attention on the speaking, because I'm assuming that because somebody's speaking, I have to pay attention to what they're saying. So if I have any background music, it's just atmospheric music, mood stuff.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, yeah. There's a lot of studies when it comes to auditory attention. Like, Nurse and I talk a lot about ADHD in general because I mean, my oldest son
Mm.
has been diagnosed with ADHD. I need to get my youngest son tested, but it's also hereditary. But it's not an attention deficit; it's more of an attention dysregulation. And um, so my issue,
Well, that's an interesting topic. We could really go down the
yeah,
rabbit
but I don't.
hole on.
That's gonna
Yeah,
that would last forever.
yeah,
But
yeah,
and I get you with the talking. Like if I'm trying to sleep, some people like having the TV on,
yeah. I
and
can't.
I can't do that because my
Yeah,
brain automatically focuses on
yeah,
the conversation. People who
yeah,
talk on the phone in public irritate the crap out of me because I cannot disengage.
yeah, yeah,
I can't do it.
yeah,
Um, if I'm working, the type of music I'm listening to depends on my mood, I guess.
yeah,
Like if I get to hyper focus, everything else is just background blur and I don't even hear it. But
yeah.
I don't know. It just depends on how you can set your mind up to go. So I get you. Yeah.
Because it does depend a lot on what you're actually doing.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you're probably like this with Macs. As soon as you open Macs and you start a project, you go into a sort of autopilot mode.
Yes. Well,
So
it
you're
actually
not.
depends on what I'm doing, but yes.
Yes, yeah. If you know what you are doing in terms of how you use the application or how the direction that you are going, your brain will switch into a autopilot mode. You'll still be, even if you are solving problems, a good. See, there's another word. Good, a good,
Good.
a good,
Good. Good.
good luck.
Good. Good.
Yeah.
Good.
So 10 minutes of trying to say that word correctly, but you know, your it's that whole muscle memory thing, I guess, is another way of putting it. So when you're doing something in 3D, a good chunk of your brain bandwidth is in autopilot, which frees up your conscious brain to solve the problem that you are dealing with whilst you are working. So it's it depends very much on what you're doing, the mood you're in, and all sorts of other things. I mean, to be frank, I hate those kinds of what was it, the Briggs? What
Oh,
was that
the
test?
Myers-Briggs personality
Yeah,
test.
I generally hate those kinds of things because people do. Um, it's like I think you mentioned that people tend to do things like that, get a result, and think that that's how they are.
Right. Well,
You know,
yeah, people put a lot of weight
yes,
on the description,
yes,
which is very counterproductive
yes,
because you're letting someone else tell you who you are at that point,
yes, yes. You're
and
boxing
that's
yourself in.
yes,
Yeah,
kind of
yeah.
reduces. But I think introversion and extroversion is kind of something you are stuck with for the rest of life. I can't imagine myself all of a sudden becoming an extrovert. You know, I like to call
Well,
myself.
yeah, yeah.
I like to call. I feel like I'm an introverted or I'm an extroverted introvert because
Okay, so yeah.
certain situations I can be very outgoing, but my energy in that situation is very limited. Once I'm out and I have to disengage.
So here's a question for you then.
Okay.
When you're doing something and you're working through a problem,
Hmm.
are you talking to yourself out loud?
Usually no.
Right. Yeah. So do you have the inner voice? So when you are thinking to yourself, do you hear a voice?
Um, Sometimes yes, sometimes no.
Yeah.
I think a lot about in terms of uh, feelings and I guess shapes. I don't know. It's hard to describe. But then when I'm having a conversation with someone in my head, I'm
Mm,
actually talking. Like
mm,
it's I'm like a little bit of both, I guess.
mm.
But like
Yeah.
if I'm probably if I'm trying to problem solve, it's more I guess untangible. I can't really describe it.
Yeah, it's so, talking about ADHD and all of that sort of stuff. So I was reading something a while back that said less than 25% of the population. So I'm guessing, I mean, this was a US based study, but I would imagine it's pretty much the same across the globe. Less than 25% of people have an inner voice. So when they are thinking, they're hearing a voice. Everybody else doesn't. They don't internally voice; they externally voice, which is why some of your friends might be very chatty, constantly talking, all that sort of stuff. It's because that's their internal dialogue being externalized.
Mm-hmm.
They don't have an internal dialogue, and that's so. When people find this out that they're one or the other, they can't imagine the other. So I can't imagine externalizing the thought process unless it's something really tricky and that's not right.
Yeah.
That's not the same thing as having an internal dialogue, an internal voice. It's the people that are constantly talking whenever they're doing something. They're constantly talking. That's their internal dialogue being externalized. And
Okay.
a majority of the population are like that. So those people on the phone, in public, hello, yes, I'm on the phone in public. Mm-hmm. They're probably part of the external voice set. So a majority of people are like that.
Yeah, it is very interesting, the internal external voice thing.
Yeah.
I don't know where I lie because I don't. I usually am more vocal depending on my mood. I think my emotions affect a lot of what I do. If I'm in a good mood, I tend to talk to myself more.
Yeah.
If I'm not, everything's kind of silent.
Yeah. Yeah. It's So yeah, I mean that's another rabbit hole that you can really go down, because it then goes into the realms of sense of mind, sense of self, all of that sort of stuff, and what makes us us.
There's a lot of interesting, or there's a lot of differences in individuals' brains, and it's how they are made up, and I don't know if there's like a lot of evolutionary stuff that caused all this, like back in the day before technology, when we were hunter gatherers or we were growing crops, like what did these different skills or brain differences provide to the community?
Well, yeah, I mean, external verbalization is obviously communication. It's obvious we're obviously communicating ideas between each other. But yeah, what evolutionary benefit is there for survival, actually? Because obviously having an internal voice prevents you from blurting out something that gets you killed.
Right. Like, okay, so you're hunting and you're like, oh shit, there it is. I can see it. It's coming this way. Oh my gosh. Oh, it's running this way.
Yeah, no, exactly.
It hurt me.
But yeah. The enemy's over there. Takes an arrow to the knee.
Ouch.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's, I mean, it's kind of funny because you're asking these questions as simple sort of yes and no questions.
Well, they're supposed to go a little bit deeper, but
yeah, no, there aren't yes and no answers to these kinds of things, because we have shorthand for, are you an introvert or an extrovert? Well, depends, because it depends on who you're with, what you're doing, where you are, your situational circumstances. um, all that sort of stuff. And it's not pie in the sky, um, woo woo. It actually means something. It has substance. It does mean something to our personalities, and it's and these days in particular, people get too caught up on thinking of themselves as being uh, broken, for want of a better word. And in the same way that you were talking about the test, they take a test, the test tells them this, so they think that. And because they think that, they then pursue that pathway, and it might not actually be what they ought to have been doing. But by the time they realize that, it may be too late. Something may have happened. There are all sorts of knock-on consequences to people. I can't really think of a way of explaining it.
It it shows you how little people actually know themselves.
Exactly. Yes, exactly. That's exactly the point. Yeah.
Or people don't actually take the time to get to know themselves. Like
yeah. So that's the external voice. If you are externalizing your voice all the time, how does that allow you to get to know yourself if you're constantly talking? And if you're constantly talking in the presence of other people, they're not going to be particularly persuaded by you constantly yammering on in a conversation about something completely different. And when you are lacking in that kind of, just that on its own is an indication that you lack the awareness that you shouldn't be yammering on when other people are trying to have a conversation with you, because I was just about to say you should know better, but obviously they don't, because they are yammering on. But yes, that's exactly, they haven't taken the time to understand their own sense of self, and they've externalized it and relied on what other people have said or told them, which then causes a conflict with their own innate self versus the projected self that they think they should be, rather than just being what they are.
Yep. The people who tend to depend on the outside to figure out who they are more affected by outside circumstances.
It's external validation.
Yep.
This is why people get themselves into all sorts of trouble, because they seek external validation. It's why social media is the way that it is, because it's that's what social media is. It's an external, it's a mechanism of external validation. And and of course you then get into the whole dopamine hits, and the excitement,
the low dose dopamine.
Yes. Yeah. So yeah, it's iMuse feed is like that. It's
the people that are asking, or like having people follow them just to get more likes and stuff, like that is the low dopamine in high high gear right there. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so it's again, it's another topic that is just rabbit hole.
Right.
How deep does the rabbit hole go?
That's the new frontier right now, is attention.
Yes, it is. That is, this is again, so flipping all the way back to the copyright thing with the AI art and all that sort of stuff. That's the same thing. It's obviously they're posting their artwork to social media for the marketing, prospective portfolio that people are going to see. But at the same time, they're feeding that, I'm going to say it, narcissistic demon that exists in everybody.
The
that
ego.
is that's constantly seeking external validation, which, as you said, the trick is trying to figure out yourself before you start seeking all that external validation. Because if you seek out external validation to the extent that people do now, they are easily led. You can be led astray for all sorts of reasons, nefarious or good.
Yeah. Rabbit hole, rabbit hole.
Yes.
If you could visit anywhere in the world, where would it be?
Ironically, speaking of social media, Facebook is a cesspool, but it does occasionally show you interesting stuff. And recently, it's been showing on my feed stuff to do with archaeology that I didn't know existed. Particularly because of architecture, not just things like the pyramids, but there's also, let me see if I can go Tepe, I think it is. It's somewhere in Turkey, if I remember correctly off the top of my head. But it's this oldest, so far, it's the oldest civilized structure that's been discovered. And it's just this, it's basically a round, it's a henge of sorts. And it's just got these stone slabs that have been carved and patterned with animals and all sorts of different shapes. I can't remember if it's older than Stonehenge or not, but it's old. But Facebook has been showing a lot of this sort of stuff, and archaeological digs, oldest skeleton in such and such, oldest building in so and so, buildings, cities, towns, villages that have been found underwater, all that sort of stuff. And that's what I would probably do if I could do anything. It would be just visit things like that.
That would be neat.
Yeah,
that'd be really neat. Where's the what's the farthest you've ever traveled?
That would probably be Amsterdam. So not very far, relatively
Not very
speaking.
far. There's a big world out there.
Oh yeah.
Wow. All right, let's get into the nitty gritty because people are probably tired about hearing about you. I'm kidding, joking. Hey, Gaff. Gaff's here. So how did you find IMVU? And what did you use it for when you first joined up? Because you've been on it since 2005.
Yeah, but you'll remember when IMVU was originally touted as a micro business opportunity. That's like way. I mean, you what were you? 2007? When did you start?
2006 is when I signed up. I
Yeah,
didn't start creating until 07.
Right. So way back in the day, the creator program was touted as a micro business, essentially. I mean, it came from another service called There.
I've heard of There, and I know.
Yeah, There is still.
I know it shut down for a while, but it came back up.
Yeah. I had a look at that, but couldn't quite figure out how to do the creative thing, because this is, we're talking micro business. We're looking at this from the point of view of creators monetizing their content. So everything I've ever done from that perspective has been from that perspective, finding ways of monetizing content and finding ways of encouraging other people to do that. So IMVU way back when was, because it was on the So, we had the recent VR, virtual reality, augmented reality push
Yes.
in the last couple of years. Way back when, Second Life and to a lesser extent IMVU were this. It was going to change the world. Everybody would be in virtual offices. They would be having virtual meetings
Mm-hmm.
in the same way that Facebook is advertising Meta. I was going to say for those old enough, it's repetitive. It's tired because we've heard it all before, like
Yes.
two or three times. So Facebook's Meta is now basically the third or fourth iteration of virtual reality. Everybody living in virtual space is going to change the world. Everybody will be in virtual meetings. Everybody will be talking virtually. No, they
Yes.
won't. But back then, it was the first iteration of that. Second Life was started, or its primary business, if you like, was that virtual business, virtual meeting space. And IMVU was a sort of competitor to it, but not from the virtual business perspective, more from the point of view of virtual messaging, which is where the whole IMVU,
Right.
does it mean instant messaging virtual universe, like we all say, the users, or is it just junk, like the founders of IMVU actually say, that it's just completely meaningless, and it's so IMVU captured the messenger aspect of the virtual world, virtual reality. Second Life back then captured, or was trying to capture, the business. There were other ones, but it's the business aspect of it, and the meetings, virtual meetings, virtual presentations, all that sort of stuff. But all of those touted themselves as potential business opportunities. So, long story short, not quite so short actually, but business. It was just about trying to figure out ways of capitalizing or monetizing creative output. And IMVU had that to start with. It was, as I say, it was touted as a micro business, a virtual micro business, because they had their creator program that you could earn. Back then, you could actually make a decent living from it.
Oh yeah.
Well, as you know,
Oh yeah.
these days, not so much, because there are so many items in the catalog and so many creators, relative to back then. But yes, that's what got me into IMVU, was looking at it from the point of view of a business and earning from it.
Oh, people are commenting in the chat about how you say IMVU, like, because
IMVU.
I say IMVU. Most of us old school people say IMVU, but everybody in the offices now say IMVU.
Well, shall I
Like, are
tell
they
you?
trying to change? Is they trying to change it?
No. I'll
No.
tell you a little secret. In the
Okay.
meetings during the residency program, all the staff refer to IMVU as IMVU, and I adamantly will say IMVU. So, and it's a bit of, it's some mirth that they find it quite amusing that people in the community refer to it as IMVU, or but they say IMVU, which is
Yeah. Well,
how the creators.
was that how the creators decided
Well,
it? Was
the
IMVU
founders say that
like
you're
Matt,
supposed to IMVU. Yes.
like Matt and
Yes.
Don?
Yes. They say
They
IMVU.
say IMVU. Well, if they
Yeah.
say IMVU, then we're all saying it wrong. But
Who
because they,
cares? It's community driven. We say it's IMVU, and that's how
yeah.
it shall be for
All right.
henceforth.
Well, forever.
Forever.
Forever. So that's basically what got you into content creation,
Yes.
was the
Yeah.
the promise of
Potential earnings.
her
Yes.
potential earnings. Yeah.
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 looking at it from, because I mean that's the thing, with uh, with the advent of the internet, even back then, the promise that it had or held for creators to be able to independently earn from their creations without having to go through publishers and corporate entities and all that sort of. I mean, obviously we are kind of doing that because of the royalty program, because you have to in order for it to basically function. But it does allow creators a certain degree of independence in terms of where they monetize their content and how they do that. So that's another one of the things that I've been quite sort of been an advocate for, is for creators, which again swings us all the way back to the copyright thing, for creators to have control over how they monetize their content and what they do with it.
All right.
Is that a particle in the fire? I've just looked at the fire and I.
Oh no, that's a. Wait, is it now?
Is it a
I
particle
thought it was
or is that texture?
Let me scroll.
Oh no,
over.
it's a flat.
I thought it was a texture. It's got like how many frames? Let's see.
That's got quite a lot of frames.
Yeah, but it's very low res, so they're small.
Yeah, no, but it's quite effective though. It just occurred to me that looks like it looked like a particle effect. Very nice.
Yeah, it's a nice room. It's low res, but it works.
Yes.
It works. So let's talk about your website a little bit. Did your
All
website
right.
did your website come before IMView, or did you design the website after
No.
IMView?
It's the first iteration of the website that I've ever had goes back some like 20 years, 25 years.
Yeah, I was browsing through your about page, and I feel like you originally made it for another
Yes.
business.
Yeah. Yeah. It was originally Quake 3 bits, which is, I mean, those that might be familiar with id Tech, it's Quake 3. It's just the first person competitive shooter. Well, it's not really a shooter as such, but that goes all the way back to like late 1990 something. But I had a website for that because used to make mods and levels, maps basically for that, and again tutorials for that. But then it was originally hosted on a freebie, and of course
like a GeoCities or something.
It was
or whatever.
On something like, yes, it was on something like that. But eventually you run out of your welcome because
right.
So, but then I bought a domain, and that was quake3bits.com, which is still alive. I think it's still alive. It points to the current one anyway. But then eventually when that community started dying off, you're stuck with a domain name that is specific to a particular game, which kind of locks you into that content. So Cat's Bits came out of that, just a
more generalized.
Yeah, more generalized. It was to do with the nickname Cat's Bits as opposed to Quake 3 Bits, and it just evolved from there. But I will say that if you are thinking of doing a website now, so much easier to do, and you can do it all in one place, and everything's basically done for you now. Back then,
there's so many different like website generators, but
yeah, back then
it was all HTML.
Yeah, hand-coded, handwritten.
Hand-coded.
Yeah.
My first site was definitely hand-coded, so I mean,
yeah,
I'm well aware.
Yeah.
I actually took a website design class in college back in the early 2000s. So I mean,
yeah,
and that was when the screen size, like you had to make it small.
Yeah. So that because that's, I mean, we're talking 3K monitors, 4K monitors now. Back then, like, 640 by 1024 if you were lucky.
Yes. I even designed a website for my dad, and I haven't updated it ever, so it's still tiny, but it's still there.
That's funny. Yeah, that's
Because
funny.
my dad raced sprint cars for most of my life, so I made him his personal website. But
He raced what?
sprint cars. It's
Sprint
a
cars.
sprint cars. It's very big in Australia and the US, but I don't know if it's big anywhere else. But
What is that?
they're open wheeled race cars. They have a so that means they don't have like the body that surrounds the wheels. The wheels are just out. Then they have a wing on top, which it's hard to describe. It's the shape of a wing, like an airplane wing, but it's got two panels on the side to keep the car on the
Oh,
ground.
right. I get. Yes, I think I know what you mean. Yes. Yeah, yeah. Oh, cool.
Yeah, so I'm kind of a racing brat, but um, they go pretty fast. That's why they have the wing, is otherwise they will fly right off the dirt.
Yes. Yes, I
But
did. I said Quake, by the way, Jimmy. Who said? Who was?
quick,
Yeah, somebody was asking. Did you say Quake? Yes, Gaff. Gaff was asking Quake, not Quake, but or Quake 2, but Quake 3. I missed the whole Quake and Quake 2 era. We was poor back then. We couldn't
pull.
afford a computer. We
Please,
had
sir,
yeah,
can
we
I
had
have some
lamps of
more?
yeah, we had lamps of coal. We used to draw pictures on the lamps of coal and call that our monitors.
Oh goodness. uh,
Yeah,
so,
we couldn't even afford slate. We used to draw on lamps of coal. We did.
did you have a
Yeah.
lot of stone soup?
Yeah, we did. We used to have a lot of stone soup. You just put a pebble in a puddle and put some candles round it and then see if that'd boil it. No, it never used to work. Yeah, it's just get a little bit lukewarm, and of course you can imagine what that was like.
Mm. So, what kind of
Pebble
service
soup,
are you
pebble
done?
soup in the other days.
All right, moving on. Moving on. We're gonna be here all day.
I don't mind.
I know. I will have to eventually pee. Not gonna lie.
Oh, okay.
Um, what kind of services do you currently offer on your website? Pray tell.
What?
This is your chance to talk about what you do on your
Oh,
site. Do you
it's
offer one on
and
one? You have YouTube videos.
oh,
What do you do?
whatever people want, whatever people ask for. If they need help, there's
Wait,
always what.
I saw that you had one-on-one services. Like, do you
Yeah, yeah.
did you stop doing that? Is that done?
No, it's still available, but you know, it's so
I
here's so you want the reality. You're
mhm.
asking for the reality.
I am. I want to know
Um
the truth.
the people that ask for help generally can't afford it. That's the truth. The people that ask for help, so we're talking about people that are new to creating, whether that's in
Mm-hmm.
IMVU or, you know, making their first game or whatever it is.
Uh-huh.
Um, they they can't afford that kind of
Excuse me.
one-to-one mentoring. So it's only the people that are already versed in 3D that are wanting to expand their skill set. And that's the same sort of thing that you'll get with you know, things, places like Skillshare and all those other places that sell content in bundles. Learn how
Mm-hmm.
to do X, Y, and Z. They have the same problem that it's you can sell to people that are upping their skills. You can't necessarily sell to people that have no skills to start with because they don't know the value. They don't understand the value of what it is that they're looking for. They don't even know what they're actually looking for, to be
Right.
frank.
You don't know what you don't know.
No. How do you spell spell? If you don't know how to spell spell, how do you check how to spell spell in a dictionary? And of course, you've got to know how to spell dictionary in order to spell spell. So it's, yeah, it's, it's, it's tricky. So, I mean, this is why having a website is a double-edged sword in some respects, because once you start producing content, once you start pushing content out there, it becomes tricky to then find a way to monetize that isn't necessarily exploitative. And you were talking about personality types. Some people find it quite easy to exploit people's ignorance of a topic, and I mean that in the dictionary definition of the word, not as a derogatory,
not insult,
not an insult. No, there are plenty of people that will, but I won't do that. So if it's stuff to get people started, it's available and it can be had. But if people want to expand their skills more broadly, then that's the stuff that they will generally pay for. And it's the same across the board with everything. Skillshare, all those other websites are the same. Because again, the people that will pay for it understand the value of what it is that they're learning because they know what it is that they're learning. Whereas people that don't pay for things, it's not because they don't want to, it's just simply because they don't understand. They don't have the vocabulary yet to be able to understand what it is that they're learning, so they don't understand the value of things.
This is why I kind of like the platforms like YouTube and Twitch, and
Yes,
because you can still share your
yes,
knowledge
yeah,
to the
and
people
it can be monetized.
and
Yeah, it can be
you could
monetized.
still
Yeah,
earn
yeah,
off of your experience.
yes,
So
yeah. So that's where YouTube and other things like that are a godsend from that perspective, because you can monetize your content indirectly, so you're not necessarily relying on directly on the people that consume your content. You're doing the monetization indirectly, so it doesn't impede their ability to learn. You're not gatekeeping, you're not putting a paywall up and
Right.
preventing them from accessing the data or accessing the information.
Right, and there are a lot of people out there, especially when they're first starting, don't even understand the value. Like we were just talking about this, but the value of the skills that you have to provide, and this is just an easy way to get in.
Yes.
For them,
but that's a perennial problem for anybody that does anything of this type. Is we were talking about your kids basically not understanding the before times. They have no. It's like you've probably had this conversation with them where you are explaining the before times to them, and they have absolutely no idea what you are talking about. You might as well be talking alien to them, literally. Yep. So everything is at their fingertips. There are 1,000,001 different. If you on YouTube, if you search for a Blender tutorial, you'll get millions of results. So there's a glut of information, and obviously if they're looking for something specific, then they already have an idea of what it is that they're looking for. But if they don't, then it's a problem. But they don't have the vocabulary to figure out what it is that they're looking for. But they're it's just they're standing on a beach in front of the ocean, wondering which way to go. Which way do I push the boat out? There's no directions. It's just water. There's the boat. Which way are you going to go? They have no idea.
Yeah. And some people just freeze up at that point. They're like, I don't know where to go. I'm just gonna stay here.
Yes.
I find the best policy is just jump in and start swimming and figure it out as you go.
Yes.
That's what I do.
Yeah. No. Well, that's one of the things. That's one of the big things that I've always said as well. Is that people ask about. So this is one of the things. IMVU presents a very particular problem because people aren't learning 3D to learn 3D. They're learning 3D to make a dress. They're learning 3D to make a shirt, a top. And you won't, and they'll have a specific idea of what their shirt or their top will be like. So when they search for, Blender or Max tutorial on making a top, and a t-shirt comes up, that's not the right tutorial. They won't find the tutorial that they want for the thing that they've got in their head. So, they just keep searching and searching and searching, never finding what it is that they want, and they get disenfranchised and just turn off because they can't find what they're looking for. And that's the flip side of it, in the sense that you can put tutorials out there, furniture, accessories, clothing, rooms, that deal with the topics in a very sort of generalized sense, but those won't work because the person that's looking for a room tutorial is actually looking for a tutorial on building a beach scene, and your generic basic tutorial about making a room isn't a beach scene. So they, that's the flip side of that, is they're coming, from IMVU's perspective, they're coming to learning 3D or 2D for texturing. They're coming to those genres from the perspective of wanting to do something specific, and not understanding that you have to understand the generalities of it before you can do the specifics.
Yeah, people, I don't know, people are impatient too.
Yeah, well, yes, there is that. So there are all sorts of, you were talking earlier about ADHD and the way the brain thinks and the way that people behave. Not as in, bad behavior or good behavior, the way that people think. And this is a problem. People are, the internet has, should we say, re-educated people not to think, but just to consume.
Yeah.
So, when it comes to learning things like 3D or 2D texturing or 3D meshing to make a certain thing, they're subconsciously in consume mode, in the sense that, this is why search engines are designed the way that they are. It's why Windows now has, the search field in the taskbar is prominent because people search for their programs. They don't click on icons, they search for the program and open it. The same with, using the internet. And it's that that easy access to information has re-educated people into thinking relative to the internet, as opposed to relative to performing functions, to doing things. It's made people consumers. So everybody's thought processes are along that lines. They think to consume as opposed to thinking to do something. And it's, from the tutorial perspective, that's a very tricky problem to solve, because you put your tutorials out there, you put your information out there, but it's not what they're actually looking for. They're looking for something. They are looking for a room tutorial, but like I say, they're looking for a beach room tutorial, or like the room that we're in, they're looking for a photo room tutorial.
Specific.
Yes.
Specific. All right.
If Nurse you need to take a break, by the way, just, I'll still be here when you get back.
Yeah. Well, Nurse asked a question. I didn't get a chance to read it because I was listening to you say. All right. She says, legitimate question. Obviously, on Twitch, the live interaction is most helpful, but is that the same for YouTube? Or is it replay views interaction that helps y'all most? Are you referring to
monetization?
Monetization, or because YouTube, they count watch time.
Yes.
And viewers.
Yes. Yeah. It's
yes.
Yeah. It depends. It depends on quite a few things, but it depends on your community, the community that you have already, and it depends what you're doing and what platform you're using. So there isn't necessarily, I mean, Twitch can be can be better for live content, but YouTube is just as good for live content. It's just really a question of where you've got the broader community, I guess. But again, it depends on whether you are streaming to those services at the same time or whether you're uploading. I mean, the one thing that Twitch doesn't have that YouTube does, which is why YouTube is archiving and searching through video content. Twitch isn't designed for that. That's not what Twitch is. Twitch is for live streaming. So if you do something and archive it on Twitch, unless somebody has a direct link, they can't search for it unless they go to your channel or to the video directly. Whereas YouTube, obviously, you can. So that the monetization aspect of it is different, just because of that, because of the way that the two services function.
Right. One gets commercials due to people watching. It's actually, I also found, because it's easier to monetize on Twitch than it is in YouTube. YouTube changed their policies.
Yes. Yeah.
So you had to have at least 1,000 subscribers and a certain amount of watch time in order to monetize. And that was new as of 5 years ago.
Yeah.
5 years ago or something like that. Which, I mean, it kind of sucks for me because I don't, I only have like 244 subscribers.
Yeah.
But,
and even then, go on, sorry.
But I've only recently started consistently uploading. Like I was very sporadic for a very long time, and consistency matters, and I know that. Yeah.
I mean, the only caveat is that even if you are part of the program, YouTube still reserves the right to demonetize you if you're, I mean, basically, if you don't get enough views or there isn't enough interaction or whatever the criteria is that they use, they are not obliged to pay you anything. It's a royalty program like IMVU. Mm-hmm. All these services, it's not a guarantee. It's a royalty program. So they're not necessarily obliged to pay you anything. That's the thing that people don't quite seem to get. It's it's like with IMVU, people complain about not getting income from IMVU, and it's like, well, you're part of a royalty program. Royalties don't work like a job. They don't work like payment. You're not being paid something. You are earning a royalty that once whatever IMVU's costs are for the month. I mean, we've known about this for ages, since the royalty program started. Mm-hmm. But once IMVU has paid all their bills, that's what they pay us. They pay the royalty out of. And it's the same for music, same for publishing, same for all of that sort of stuff, all that creative aspect, creative output. You as the creator only get paid if there's money left after all the expenditure that the service incurs. If there's anything left from that, then you get paid.
Exactly. And then they also have to maintain the trust issue.
Yes.
So I mean, they're gonna pay you unless you
really
violate unless you violate something. But they have to maintain trust. Otherwise, people will stop using the platform altogether, and they will just lose money. So
yeah. And then of course there's all sorts of the trust issue goes both ways.
Right.
Because obviously there's a whole controversy, particularly with YouTube and the way that they've been. Some people have been saying that they've been behaving towards them, for whatever reason, and it's completely arbitrary. I mean, as we all know, even with IMVU, the rules are written in a way that all the power is in the service's hands. It's not in the creator's hands.
Mm-hmm.
And it's sad that creators don't understand this. They I mean, again, I suppose it's another consequence of the internet age, because content is accessible. at the click of a button, people kind of assume that the same sort of thing, creators assume that it's the same with, the content that they upload.
Yes.
No, it's never been like that.
So let's talk a little bit about your experience with the creator in residency program.
Oh yes, yes.
Yes, I'm almost through all my questions, just so you know. Almost there. And then we can move. Then we could like look at some of your fun stuff if you want to show some stuff. But so how did you feel when you first contacted about the residency program? Like, were you super excited, or you're like, oh, yeah, it's cool?
No, yeah, it's I last minute, literally the last day of the submissions, was when I sent my submission in.
Oh,
I thought,
last day.
Yeah, what the heck? Because I mean, no, because seriously, as you're probably aware, I've done quite a lot of stuff with IMVU in the past. The FBX stuff, the ability that we now have for importing FBX files. I was involved in that. So that's going back 5-6 years now. Involved with the development of Studio. So all the tools that we're now seeing have been involved with that. So in the back of my mind is always the question of, well, if I apply to something like that, is that fair? Is it fair for me to apply to something like that with my track record of my involvement with IMVU, with these previous, the previous work, the previous projects? And how does that, because there are equally deserving creators, yourself included, because similarly you have helped them with some of the things that they've done in the past, particularly because of your Max experience. So, and you and I, between you and I and everybody that's going to probably watch this after the fact, we know that certain elements of the community can be quite vocal and vicious. And those kinds of things are things that you do have to take into consideration if you have an established relationship. It's not just, this is general advice, not just for IMVU. You do have to be aware of the potential impropriety that may present or may be perceived as being, and how favoritism, that's the word. And you have to be prepared to deal with that if something like that raises its head. You do have to be aware that that is a potential issue, because go on, sorry.
So, but this is where knowing thyself helps put a shield up to that kind of comments.
Yes.
You know that you put in the work with them, and now this is more of like a short-term contract work at this point, I feel like, with the creator residency. So like now they're paying you to be at their beck and call or whatever. To work with them.
Yeah. Yes, it is. So in a sense, it's not really that much different from some of the contract work that IMVU do actually put out into the community. So all the VIP gifts, all the special gifts, the meshes, the clothing, the outfits, all of those will have been contracts that have been contracted out to the community that creators can apply to. I think they still do. The IMVU still push out, calls for interest, so to speak, for all their events and things, the special events that anybody can apply to. So the creator in residency program is essentially that, but over 4 months, 4 months. And it's very much like then it's the difference really is what you just said is that you're not necessarily at their beck and call, so to speak, but relatively speaking, to you just being given a project and shooed away to get on with it. You know, the residency program is the opposite. They want your involvement. They want you involved in their projects and the internal projects, and you know, most of it really is to do because obviously you're coming from the community, so a lot of the stuff that you get involved with will be not necessarily community related directly, but will be of or about the community. How will, if we did this, how would it be perceived in the community? Could we do this within the community? What is the community's opinion of this kind of thing? You know, with it being the creator in residency program, a lot of the stuff that we did was, I mean, with it being the first one, a lot of the stuff that we did was essentially to establish a protocol, for want of a better way of putting it, uh, you know, to give IMVU an idea of how they want the program to actually work, what they get out of it, as well as what the involved creators get out of it. So it's very reciprocal, you know. We didn't do much publicly. I would have loved to have done more publicly, but we didn't, because it being the first one, we're obviously trying to establish that protocol, you know,
Right.
that workflow. How is this going to work? What can be expected? You know, how to, I mean, the one thing that you know, I think we did a couple of live Twitch streams with some of the creator team, and they asked this question of, you know, what did you think of it? And the thing that I personally found quite interesting was the meetings. You have to be prepared for a lot of meetings, because as individual creators, we have an idea and we just make it.
Yep.
With IMVU, they can't do that, because there's the creator team, there's the art team, there's the marketing team, there's the engineers, there's the, you know, the C-level, you know, CEOs and all that sort of stuff. And each team has their own bent,
Ideas.
you know. Yeah, well, it's not just ideas, but their own perspective on what they want, what they need to achieve from, excuse me, what they need to achieve from a certain thing. Even with the standard contracted content, you know, you've got the creator team, but you've also got the marketing team. They need to be able to liaise between all parties in order to get the right messaging out relative to, you know, so marketing needs decent images, they need early access, whereas the creator team are just managing the project, and then obviously there's you as the creator making the content. Each one has their own prerequisites to get out of that particular project. I mean, with ordinary contracts, the creator is very much left on their own devices to a large degree. But with a creator in residency program, it's you're kind of a pseudo employee. It's
Yes.
You're not, obviously, for obviously legal reasons. Let's get that clear. But it's you're kind of, you know, you become a sort of an internalized team member within the creator team that then is liaising with the various departments depending on what, you know, what they want from a particular project. I mean, like one of the ones that we were working on, that we were establishing, was a showcase room. I think they talked about this on the live thing, so I don't think I'm revealing too much here. But we were working on a showcase room, but we had to establish a way of making that so that it could be updated after the fact. So we had a, you know, so it's not just the creator team that's involved in that, it's the marketing, because, it's a showcase room, so they want to showcase all the features. You've got the creator team, the engineers, needing to know what needs to be showcased in order to build the engineering behind the scenes in order to bring that feature to the fore. And then you've got, obviously, marketing fits into all of that. Then they've got the CEOs, the C-level employees running the company. What benefits do they get from a monetary perspective? What is this earning for ironView? So there's all these groups that have different requirements from a particular project, and the residency program allows you to have much more in-depth interface in that process, whereas with normal contract work, you're just kind of left to your own devices and you kind of make the thing and then get some feedback every now and then. But yeah, it's very interesting. It's if people are, I mean, I think the due date for the next one is been and gone.
Yeah, it was like the 5th or 6th or something like that, I think.
But it's worth applying to, just to give yourself perspective in terms of how the corporation itself functions and how the corporation, because again, this was another thing I think we talked about on the official Twitch stream. Creators only see the end result. They only see the outside interactions with ironView. So creators constantly say that ironView is not listening to them. They are, but X issue may only affect, let's say, the creator team. So I can't think of an example off the top of my head, but a particular issue might be something that can be addressed by the creator team, and they could address it quite quickly. So it might be solved by the end of the week. When you're talking bugs within the software, you're now talking about engineering. So engineering has to liaise with the creator team in order to liaise with the creators posting in the forum to get a better idea of what's going on with the problem. That then has to go through them to get, well, it doesn't necessarily go through them, but there's that liaison between the different departments, and they do listen. But the problem that ironView has as a corporation that we don't have as creators is that we have an idea, we just do it. They can't do that. So everything has to be coordinated, quantified, qualified before it even gets anywhere near, the go-ahead to be addressed. So they are aware of things that are going on. They do listen in the sense of they do read what's going on. But the problem we have as creators is that, again, an internet thing, we have a problem, type it in the forum, it gets fixed. That's what we're expecting, because that's what the internet has kind of engineered our thought processes to be.
Right, very true.
But that's not how the corporation, the big entity, can function. It can't function like that, because if the creator team fixed something and it actually needed some engineering input, they've now potentially created a bigger problem by doing whatever it was that fixed the problem temporarily that should have actually been fixed with engineering. And that's what creators don't see. It's but the the residency program, you get a good insight into how that, the interoperability of all the different departments, how everything has to, it is a machine, they're all cogs. From the point of view, they all have to mesh together, which is why the meetings are so important. There's a lot of them, but it allows you that space to be able to voice out that process, that prioritization. What needs to be fixed now, what can be fixed later, and so that's what's going on behind the scenes that we don't see as creators.
I've noticed that a lot of the more vocal, angry creators, who scream favoritism or this is
Yes.
broken or that broken, they tend to they tend to be more of a subtype of personality type. Generalization.
Yes.
Um,
Yeah.
they are the type of people like you're describing that want the most. I say they want what they want with the least amount of work involved, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah.
They're less likely to work hard to get what they want. They think they should. Maybe they're more entitled group. That's what I'm trying to think
Yes.
of.
Yeah. Yeah.
They're
Yeah.
they have a more entitled personality. They think they should get what they want to get, and if someone else gets it before them, the jealousy thing.
Yes.
It's kind of the more toxic personality,
Yes.
and those are the ones that are also the most vocal.
Yes.
And you know what they say: the squeaky wheel gets the grease
Well,
type
no. Well,
situation. But
that fits
in
into
a, in
what
a
that fits into what we were saying earlier about you know with all the YouTube stuff, with the website stuff, and the tutorial stuff. It only takes one person to to not necessarily just destroy the whole thing, but that one toxic person can do enough damage to just because it's the internet. Toxic
yes,
people are on the internet, and toxic people do toxic things and create a toxic mess behind them
mm-hmm.
without care of damage that's done. And this again is another thing that plays into the way that IMVU has to react to the community, because you have to tread water to a certain degree, like you were saying with the favoritism. You have to be aware of things like that may happen. Um, Depending on your particular personality type, it's more likely to happen if you have the wrong type of personality, shall we say,
Right.
that encourages that kind of behavior. But there are, I mean, even then, you see that the internet has re-engineered the way people think. So when you involve money in that, subscriptions, earnings, that changes the dynamic, because you've now got not only has the internet rewired the way that people think to be consumers, now that money's involved, there is that sense of I've paid for this service and I am due this service. And in the olden days before the internet, um, there wasn't a means to be as vocal as uh, people might be now. So that's another reason why IMVU sometimes doesn't appear to be very what's the word? It's
Receptive or
yeah, well, it's not obvious that IMVU is listening, but sometimes no response is the best response.
right.
But it doesn't necessarily mean that they're not paying attention to what's being said. But again, with like you were saying with the creators, the one thing with creators, the one monkey wrench in the machine is the earnings. That's where things get tricky, because it is, even though it's a royalty program, it is still an income. It's still an income for a lot of people, and for the top tier creators, it's a lot of income. So when things don't work, it's not just that something isn't working. That's an impediment to the earnings, and that complicates that dynamic that IMVU has between creator and IMVU as a service provider, because it's not just a royalty program, it's people's incomes, it's people's livelihoods. So of course, when things go wrong, people are going to be more vocal because their livelihoods are being threatened. That's how it's perceived. And of course, when IMVU doesn't respond the way that people want them to respond, that causes friction. And again, it doesn't necessarily mean that IMVU is not paying attention. It just means that, sometimes silence or non-responsiveness is the best option for, it's not just IMVU, but corporations. It's why they do it. That's why corporations are very, well, usually very measured and diplomatic and very businesslike in their responses, because they're trying their best not to inflame the situation, because money's involved and things can go haywire very quickly.
Yep.
IMVU is no different. But the Creator in Residency program gives you a bit of insight into that, because you see that interaction between the creators and IMVU.
Right. The unfortunate thing about certain people is that they will never see, I guess.
No.
There's certain people that will just never see, and that goes with like certain people. Like once you hit a certain age, the likelihood of you changing or changing your point of view is small. Which is unfortunate.
It's the Matrix analogy, isn't it? It's Lawrence Fishburne's character saying you need to see the Matrix. You can't just, you can't be told about it. You have to see it. You have to experience it.
Yes.
And it's the same kind of thing, but you have to be open. I mean, I suppose in many respects, people that have worked for themselves, whether that's self-employment as something else, not just being a creator, they could have been a plumber before, you have that self-reliance, but you also have that awareness of the way that officialdom works, how it actually works in reality. The way that you have to liaise with official entities in order to get the outcome that you want. You can't just scream at them. That doesn't work. In fact, that actually makes things a lot worse.
It's like a toddler screaming at you because it wants a toy. I'm like, you're sorry, that's not going to work.
No, it doesn't. But I mean, it would be interesting to do I've often thought about this, actually, I did do a couple of surveys a long time ago of the various aspects of the community, of the creator community. But these kinds of things would be quite interesting to see, get insights on, in terms of things like, are creators registered as businesses, or are they self-employed? Have they ever been self-employed? Are they coming from employment? All that sort of stuff, to see how, as a group, how the creator community, the personality type of the creator community, should we say, put it that way, and the creator community's broader general background. What are creators? Where have they come from? What are they doing? What's their general experience? That was actually some of the things that I wanted to try and do during the residency program, was get the creators more involved in a lot of the programs. But of course, with it being the first one, not knowing what was going on, etc., it never came to fruition. But it is something that was of interest. So going forward with other programs and other residencies, that might be something that they can do, is get the community more involved in what's going on, not just from the point of view of contests and things like that, but understanding the creators themselves, the community itself, and what it does, how it functions, the personality type of the creator community as an entity.
If you had the chance to do the residency again, would you?
That's an interesting question, because it was the first one.
So, it would be different the second time, for sure.
It would be different the second time. So no, no, because it's no, I wouldn't. No, I think really because um, the residency program for me, I guess you could say, because of what we were talking about earlier about my experience assisting IMVU generally,
Mm-hmm.
for the past, it must actually be going on a decade or so now. The creator in residency for me was essentially an extension of that process. But that process hasn't stopped because the residency program stopped. There's still stuff that goes on behind the scenes that obviously I'm not as closely involved because that's what the residency is. But, so it's the residency for me was like taking a step through the door.
Right.
And then once the program was done, you're stepping out of the door, but you've still got the telephone. You're still talking to them on the telephone or, doing Zoom meetings or whatever. So for me, it wouldn't necessarily, unless they had something specific that they needed doing. No, it wouldn't be of much more benefit to me
Mm-hmm.
doing it again.
Yeah. All right. That is actually my last question for you.
Oh,
Oh, but there is what is one question that you would have wished I would have asked you, and how would you have answered that question? So I guess you're
uh,
asking yourself a question.
I have absolutely no idea. I will answer whatever's asked. We'll have
Does anybody
this.
in the audience? Let's turn it to the audience. We have
This is
Jimmy and
this is a
Nurse currently.
yeah. This is just a conversation.
Yes.
It's not a you know.
Was there anything that else you want to talk about? I guess that would be the better way to put it.
Um, Not really. I mean, the res if the residency program is going to be interesting for IMVU because they're going to get a lot of resources out of this, or I would hope they would get a lot of resources out of this
If
from the
they use
point of
it
view.
wisely, yeah. I mean,
Yes,
and I guess it depends.
I just had that. What is it? It's Indiana Jones. Choose wisely
Ah.
when he holds the chalice out to him.
Yeah.
Um, it's an incredible opportunity for all involved to, it's because to IMVU the residency program is a means to achieve certain goals. Like with me, for example, it was the Blender toolkit and transferring that into the other toolkits that are being made for 3D Studio Max and Maya. Kuroi, the fellow residency
Uh-huh.
chap, we between the two of us, we focused on Marvelous Designer. So that's what IMVU got out of it was, the toolkit and Marvelous Designer. And because obviously a lot of people, predominantly the people that are making content on IMVU are making clothing, and a lot of them use Marvelous Designer, or they have access to Marvelous Designer, but they don't know the pathway. So that's what IMVU at face value got out of it from Kuroi's and my perspective was
Mm-hmm.
Marvelous Designer, the content for that, the tutorials, all the information about, what's going on going forward. For the next one, I'd imagine that it's going to be the 3D Studio Max toolkit and maybe texturing from the point of view of possibly now that Studio and desktop beta are out, that means normal maps, shininess maps, emission maps, iridescence, all the new graphical effects that a lot of creators are having trouble getting to grips with. So the next round might very well be 3D Studio Max Toolkit and a set of tutorials or set of materials media that's going to help creators get to grips with that transition from classic to studio, because
Yeah.
classic is eventually going to die.
Right.
It's eventually going to go missing.
Shiny. So Nurse has a question for you.
Uh-huh.
She wants to know about toilet paper. She wants all the accessories. She wants a whole line of TP, maybe TP clothing. I don't know.
I was working on a TP AP ribbon type thing, but
Ooh.
never got it finished. It got distracted with something else because it was a live stream that was being done,
Oh,
and you know,
got distracted.
never finished it. But yes,
Um,
I even had I even was in the process of doing um a room, just an apartment, a simple apartment that had um toilet paper TP hanging from the walls as a sort of like a hoarder's
oh,
you know, so it's like a psychotic hoarder, a psychotic TP hoarder. So there's piles of toilet paper all over the place, you know, toilet paper stuck to the wall and hanging down, and you know, they're doing, you know, whatever they do, whatever a psychotic TP hoarder would do in a room with toilet paper hanging from the you know, hanging from the walls. So, but I never got around to finishing that one either because, again, another project came up. But yes, there's lots of TP ideas.
yeah. And then let's see. Gaff had a question. I got distracted. Gaff, gaff, gaff. Where are you? Okay, so he says, how do you see the future of iView and the whole metaverse thing?
That's a very interesting question. That's a very interesting question. So the whole metaverse, from a general point of view, is going virtual reality. You know, it's there's the push for the VR headsets.
Yeah, my son
Yeah,
got one for Christmas from his dad last
yeah,
year, and then his dad got one so he could play with them, and now my other son got one
yeah,
for Christmas this year, and I'm like, so where's mine?
yeah,
When do I get one?
yeah,
I know we're not married anymore, but like I want to
yeah,
join in. Come on.
yeah. Well, yeah, yeah. You're the one that no, I won't say that. You're the one that pushes people over when they're when they're using.
No,
No, no,
that's my no, that's my oldest son. That's a
um,
teenage thing.
yeah, no, the so you know, we were talking about Second Life earlier
Uh-huh.
being the whole sort of virtual office space. Virtual reality with the headsets isn't going to happen. It will never happen unless they figure out a way to put on just a pair of glasses. They've already got. I mean, they was it Microsoft or Apple Glass? I can't. Or was it Google?
Google
Google
Glass. They had the
Glass.
thing with the cardboard. You put the phone in there or something like
Well,
that. I don't know.
yeah, there is that, but one of them did something that was akin to a pair of
Oh,
glasses.
glasses. I
Was
don't.
it was it Google Glass?
Sounds.
One of them
It's
did it anyway. It won't happen unless they can get the technology into a pair of standard plain glasses.
yeah. All the
Because
headsets are quite bulky and
yeah, no,
they hurt. They
yeah,
hurt my head.
yeah,
They're tight.
you can't. No, that's. I mean, if we're talking about, so we're what they want is everybody being in the metaverse. What Facebook wants is everybody being in the metaverse. No, that's not going to happen whilst people are wearing those big, bulky headsets.
Right.
What's needed? Here's you will remember this. Going to the cinema, wearing those paper throwaway 3D glasses.
Yes.
That's what virtual reality needs.
Yes. It'll happen. I mean, with the foldable,
Yes.
super thin
Yeah.
OLED or whatever
Yeah.
displays that are
Yeah.
coming out. So that, and
Yeah.
then you need the speakers that like you wear the headphones to go with it
Yeah.
to get the 3D sound.
Yeah.
And yeah, Absolutely.
Well, I mean, you wouldn't even need that. The speakers would be in the frame of the
Yeah,
glasses.
it depends how they, if they
Yeah.
want it to be like, if you want it like to the outside world to not hear
Oh, yes, yes. Yeah,
what's going on,
yeah,
then you need something in the ear.
yeah. But that's, from the point of view of Facebook in particular, wanting everybody to be in the metaverse, it won't happen unless the headsets get to the point where they are those disposable, the virtual reality equivalent of those throwaway 3D glasses, or
And
even just 3D, you know, glasses just in a general sense that people can wear.
I have to imagine that it will be there in about 5 years. Just the way everything's progressing so quickly right now.
The
That's my
power,
personal
yeah,
prediction.
yeah,
5 years.
the power is, the processing power is there already. We can already do it. The
Hmm.
problem is the hardware.
Right.
That's the big issue. Um, I mean, I suppose the military uses certain elements of this to a degree, but they have, uh, like pilots have those uh, flip down vision things that flip down in front of their visors that
Right.
act as a head-up display.
There may be
Um,
even be contact lenses in the far future.
yes, well, yes. I mean, yeah, that's probably going. I mean, Bluetooth, you know, Bluetooth connected and all that sort of stuff. But
Right.
yes,
That
that
is with
what's
battery. Yeah.
yeah,
I don't know.
but it might be solar powered. Could be solar powered.
Oh, that's true.
Yeah.
That's a good
Um,
idea.
but yeah, it won't happen unless or until the tech evolves to the point where people are just putting on a pair of standard glasses or a set of standard headphones. It won't happen until that happens, because you can't. People will not. I mean, can you imagine the medical liability of requiring people to have particular headsets, those big headsets, the big bulky headsets, the
Uh huh.
medical liabilities of requiring people to use those or have those as part of part of using virtual reality. The neck strain that will cause, back strain, back issues,
Headaches
posture,
for sure.
headaches, yeah, migraines, nausea, motion sickness, eyesight problems, because obviously your eyes aren't focusing necessarily the way that they're naturally inclined to. So there's probably, it would be interesting to read through uh, the terms of service for those types of headsets to see if they have any liability waivers for that kind of stuff. So if you put that stuff on your head, you are waiving your right to sue them if something happens. So if you get
Hmm.
you induce an injury or something happens as a consequence of wearing those things, whether you have uh, granted them immunity from being sued.
Right.
So it's so there are all sorts of consequences for. I mean, and again, what would be the consequences of. So if the internet as it currently is, when we are just looking at screens and typing on keyboards, if that's rewired the way that people think in terms of, they consume information as opposed to searching for it, the information is just shoved in their faces, what would it do to people's psyche if, or in the virtual reality world, in the metaverse, what would having more immediate access to that, it's not immediate access, it's more physically immediate interface with that kind of environment, what would that do to the brain? What does that do to the psyche?
Mm-hmm.
How would that sort of direct access rewire the way that people think and perceive the world?
Yeah, would they become less like more? What's the word? Like, you know, when people see violent acts on TV, it makes them numb, just
Desensitized.
desensitized.
Yeah.
But people, when they see a violent act on TV, they know it's not real. I think,
Yes.
and then if you see it, like you see a violent act that's real, it still affects me because I know it's real. But when you get into like a 3D environment, does it get hard that the lines start to
Well,
blur?
yeah, that's another rabbit hole. That's another
Yeah.
interesting topic of discussion because this is the whole violent games cause violent behavior.
But it's
Um,
quite obvious that those violent games are for entertainment or they're fake. Like
well,
you don't get the same visual reaction when you're killing a do
yeah,
you?
no, it's that's the problem is the brain doesn't know the difference. If
I guess
at face value, the brain doesn't know the difference. It's only your cognizance of the act and what you are doing that
well I
delineates the line between the virtual versus the real. But
well
even then, if it's something that you are watching on screen, there isn't that much difference between playing Call of Duty on hardcore and fragging your enemies and seeing them just dispersed into a cloud of blood and gibs versus something that might appear real in a video that you're watching. The brain doesn't know the difference between whether that's one of them is real and one of them is fake. It's only your conscious awareness of the difference that makes a difference. The brain doesn't know.
I feel like once we get more into virtual reality, when they start adding like sensors to like or like gloves or whatever where you can actually touch things,
Yeah, haptic feedback is the term.
haptic feedback, yes,
Yeah.
that is going to really royally start confusing the brain.
Well,
You know, if
people
you're
are
because if you're
already.
shooting people,
Yeah,
if you're
no,
shooting
it's
people with a remote control, there's
yeah, no,
no.
no, that's. I mean, there are haptic feedback units that you can buy already that do that,
Uh-huh.
and it's already causing people problems. Um, uh, they it's. So here's a question for you in relation to this. It actually relates to this. So, what's the most violent game that you've played?
Uh,
So, have you ever played first-person shooters? Call of Duty.
yeah, I
Mer-
haven't
mer-
played video games like that in years, but
yeah,
I've done the virtual fighters, I've done the
right.
first person shooters,
So,
but
if you imagine, so like Tekken, then for example, you've played
uh-huh.
Tekken or you know Mortal Kombat. Yeah, thanks, Gav. That's
Yes.
the other one. Yeah, so Mortal Kombat. So your perception of Mortal Kombat is based on um, games as they were visually, the visual fidelity of a game based, from around maybe 2010,
Yeah, yeah, I suppose I'm
right?
I'm out of the loop with that one with when it comes
Right.
to
So here's the
graphics.
problem. So when the brain doesn't know the difference between violence that it sees, it's only your awareness of the difference. So knowing that it's a game makes a sort of a cognitive difference in terms of how you perceive that, how you think about it. But how the brain actually perceives it is not. It's the same. It doesn't differentiate. So way back when, 2010, if you were playing Mortal Kombat, you've got essentially, excuse the French, crappy graphics. So that delineation is is there to assist you in being able to tell the difference between what is Mortal Kombat the game versus, let's say, Mortal Kombat a YouTube video. So if you'd seen a video of Mortal Kombat 2010,
The live action movie?
yeah. Well, yes, no, exactly. So live action movie. So you've got Mortal Kombat the movie, not the one with Kylie Minogue, but if you saw the live action movie version of Mortal Kombat the game back in 2010, you'd definitely know the difference because you'd be cognitively aware of that difference graphically, but the brain doesn't know the difference. Fast forward to 2023, the graphics now in games. So Mortal Kombat in 2010 was rated 18. The same game now is still rated 18, but the graphics are now on a par with live action movies. Not only is it on a par with live action movies, it's on a par with real life videos that are available on YouTube where you can see people being killed, where you can see them being gibbed, blown up. I mean, not too long ago, I think YouTube actually stopped this. I'm not quite sure, but during the Gulf War, the first one, no, it wasn't the first one. It would have been the second one. The military was getting told off because their soldiers were uploading videos of soldiers, combat in Afghanistan. Now, if you saw a video of that versus a video of Mortal Kombat now, you cognitively would know the difference, but taken at face value, your brain wouldn't. And that's the problem. And that feeds into all sorts of other psychological problems. So that in terms of when they say that, violent games cause violent behavior, no, it doesn't. What it does do is it can feed into predispositions. So if somebody is predisposed to, I mean, it's like the classic one is, the sad, tragic events that we have with school shooters. Typically, it's usually reported in the press that they play computer games, they play video games, and usually they will say they play violent video games, and they will use that as a reason for that person to have done what they've done. No, that doesn't happen. What does happen is that the violence in the video games acts as a reinforcement. It's a, it reinforces what they are already surrounding themselves with. So it doesn't create it, but it does reinforce it. And of course, we're talking about people, individuals that are disturbed in one way or another, so that they can't. I mean, you could make the argument, which is relative to what you were saying earlier, is that we air quotes, we know the difference. That's not the issue. It's not the difference. Knowing the difference isn't the issue for these particular types of people. There's something that happens to them that prevents them from knowing the difference, and using that kind of media, whether it's violent games or, I mean, they don't talk about violent movies, but you can bet your bottom dollar that they've got a DVD shelf full of, violent content. So it's not that the violent content is creating the violent individual. It's that the violent individual is using the violent content to perpetuate that mindset, because they can't. Well, I mean, you could make an argument. Can they tell the difference between one and the other? or do they care to tell the difference between one or the other? Because they've obviously got a disturbed mind to be able to then go and do what
Right.
they do.
Right.
So yeah, that's a long way of saying you can tell the difference because you're aware of the framework of what a game is versus what a movie is versus what a video, a real video is. But the brain doesn't know the difference. It's only your awareness of that difference that allows you to moderate and change the way that you navigate those different forms of media. But these days, yeah, it's like, you could play Call of Duty Modern Warfare and watch a video of soldiers in combat, and you would be in many respects hard pushed to tell the difference. I mean, the only difference is obviously is that real soldiers don't bunny hop.
Right. Ah, stupid. My Avast decided to do something while we're chatting.
Oh,
It popped right in front of the screen. I'm like, no.
yeah, that's what it does.
I'm like, they were supposed to be in game mode. No. Whatever.
Yeah.
Bunny hop. So I don't know. I don't have any more questions. Is there anything you want to show us or anything? If you do, if you want to continue this conversation, I will have to take a potty break. I'm not going to lie. But if you just want to end it, I'm okay with that too.
Well, I've got maybe another half an hour left. I can go another half hour. Yeah. So I mean, if you wanna, take a break and then.
All right, I will take a quick potty break and we will continue this.
Yeah. So
yeah,
keep it going and then.
5-minute break. 5-minute break. I'm typing that in. So, all right.
I'll keep an eye on the chat.
Okay.
Hello, chat. Now that Miyaka's gone. So yes, the whole mind perception thing is a very, 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 very interesting topic. Hey, Jimmy. Gaff? No, I don't. I mean, like most creators, they don't really have much time for anything else other than creating. Yeah, Mom's gone. Yes, that's quite right. Narcissistic. Mom's gone, so how do we get Dad into trouble? No, I took a look at. See, what troubles me, and this is why the whole violence and violent games and how the brain perceives games is interesting now, because the fidelity of games is so good that you would in many instances be hard pushed to tell the difference between reality versus your interaction with the game. It's only the fact that you might be typing on a keyboard and swinging your mouse around that allows you to tell that so you are aware of the difference. But the analogy of the Mortal Kombat, the Mortal Kombat analogy is important because in 2010, a kid playing Mortal Kombat would be more cognitively aware of the fact that it is a game than they would be if they were playing it now. So you, as a 10-year-old playing Mortal Kombat back in 2010, what effect does that have playing the same game now with the graphics fidelity that we have available to us? What difference does that make? Is that making any difference? What does having all that blood and gore being so detailed and visceral, what does that do to that 10-year-old psyche? So, we're back into the realms of violent video games creating violent people. It doesn't necessarily create violent people, but what is it doing? Does it do anything? So could you do a test with a couple of 10-year-olds, having half of them playing the 2010 version of Mortal Kombat versus, I don't know if 2023 has a version of Mortal Kombat out, but that's the example. If they had a 2023 version, how would the different groups perceive what they were doing? And how would you test for that? How would you test whether one group or the other is being adversely affected, if they are adversely affected by their experience based on what they are watching, looking at, interacting with? Yeah, Marilyn Manson is the yeah. Narcissistic, it depends, because again, the it's computer games, video games present an interesting issue in the sense that it's the visceral aspect of it, the interactive visceral nature of it. So even though you may be playing 8-bit graphics, the story, the interaction, the emotions, the viscerality of it, the immediacy of it, that still affects the way that that affects the psyche. But does that necessarily mean that just because it's 8-bit, does that mean that you are safe versus playing the same thing in not 8-bit? Yes, but yeah, but it is an interesting topic, how our perception of virtual worlds, how it can deceive the brain into thinking or perceiving the world around it in a wonky way, just because of the nature of what it is. Oh, just continuing the conversation a little bit with the brain and how the brain thinks. Brain talk.
I'm back.
Yeah.
I tinkled. I feel better. Brain talk.
Yeah.
Well, I had coffee.
Oh.
And I'm like, wow, I'm surprised I lasted as long as I did. But then I got more coffee. Oh no,
yes.
What's going on?
But all of these, it's not so much, well, it is, I suppose you could say you could make the argument that all these technological advancements have potentially deleterious effects on society more broadly. You could argue that, so we've just been talking about video games can be violent if you're playing military shooters or combat shooters. Mm-hmm. But it's it's a computer based, you are interacting with something. So is Twitter any less dangerous versus playing Mortal Kombat or Call of Duty? Is Twitter any less dangerous when we consider how that morphs people's perceptions of their interactions with others? How social media distorts people's perceptions of the way that they should be communicating, how they interact as groups. Yeah, Twitter is. It really is. So it's like the younger generation is supposedly less they're less group oriented. They're not as happy apparently as previous generations. They're more prone to depression. They're more prone to all sorts of other mental health issues. But that's not from playing, air quotes, violent video games. You sent me another chat
Yeah,
invite.
because I had to
Oh,
close my window down because it froze up.
oh, okay.
So now we're in a garden.
Oh, yeah. So, here we're talking about violent video games, but social media is just as uh, likely to change people's perceptions of, their environment.
Uh, when it comes to happiness as a generation and whole, as a whole,
Mm,
I feel it is more of like what is it has a lot to do with social media, but it's more of a disconnect with your
yes,
authentic self. Like if you don't
yes,
know, like I
yes,
said, we're talking about today, if you don't know yourself, you don't
yes,
know how to be happy, and
yes,
everything's externalized. So yes,
yes,
that is
yes,
my belief
yes,
in why
yes,
everyone's so miserable
yes.
lately.
So, which is worse, playing air quotes violent video games for kids? Let's frame this within the realms of you know um, anyone below the age of 20, let's say. So that's is that Gen Z? I
I
don't know. Is it? I don't know. Um,
generate. I don't know.
is it? So is that disassociation that's caused by, let's say for the sake of argument, is caused by social media? Is that more dangerous, or allowing younger kids access to social media, is that more dangerous than letting them have access to playing violent video games?
Social media, I think, is much more dangerous.
Mm,
It's re, it's oops, it's restructuring people's brains
mm,
and how they receive their dopamine or whatever,
yes,
or how they
yes,
receive uh pleasure, I guess.
yes,
Their pleasure becomes very externalized. And through other people, like with video games, unless you're playing a multiplayer video game, you're not really. It's more like watching TV. It's like an entertainment type situation. But
mm,
the connection, there is no real connection when you're in a video game. When you're in social media, you're connecting with people, but in a very loose way,
yeah.
which is
Gaff,
I think is more dangerous.
yeah, Gaff is just asking, would you consider social media, would you consider IMVU social media as well? um Initially, no. um I I mean, you could definitely argue that, well, certain aspects of it, like the feed, you could definitely say that has the social media metric, that Instagram vibe, posting constant images to feed to get that hit in the same way that you would on Instagram.
They even
Um,
they even they even reward you for posting on the feed via a
yes,
tier point.
yes, yeah.
So
But
there's yeah.
no, it was just, I mean, but the chat itself is, uh, it could be dangerous from the point of view of reinforcing um, bad grouping. So it could be used to reinforce, let's use the word, toxic behaviors. But as a general sort of rule of thumb, it wouldn't necessarily be that just meeting people and chatting and having fun and hanging out, that's not quite the same. That's different to playing a game, and it's different to social media, because the being in a room with people, you are aware of the fact that they are people, and you are hanging out chatting about things that might be of interest. So there's a degree of interactivity there that kind of nullifies, for want of a better word, nullifies the normal effect that you might have with social media and being online, as a general sort of rule of thumb.
Uh there I think social media and IMVU are they're in the same. They're like in the same boat. They're in the same category, but they're on different ends of the boat.
Yes.
Um,
Yes.
the IMVU um definitely connects more with the fantasy end of things.
Yes.
So you are in a
Yes. Role
fantasy
playing.
world,
Yeah, you're
role
role
playing.
playing.
You
Yes.
and everyone, you understand you're with other people,
Yeah.
but everybody is playing a role.
Yes.
And in social media, you most people, unless you have like a one of those influencer accounts, or you're like you're an
Yes.
account for your avatar, it's
Yeah.
more real-ish, I guess.
Yes. Yeah.
But
Yeah.
that they're both the same boat, just, or even the same coin, just different sides.
Yes.
And they affect you in different ways.
Yes. Yeah.
So I mean, there's the certain people that get way involved in fantasy.
Yes.
I view is dangerous.
Yes.
It's dangerous for their self-esteem. It's dangerous for just their being connected with a real person in general, because they don't know how, in
Yes.
like a real environment. They won't know
Yes.
how, because they're connecting with pretend people who are,
Yes.
pretending to be other people, I guess, if that makes
Yes.
sense.
No, no, IMVU is a proxy. It's a means through which people can safely interact, with others without necessarily, being exposed to um, too much. I mean, obviously, on Twitter, you have much more direct access to um, toxic stuff because the algorithm feeds it to you, because
Yes.
it's monetized. Basically, that's why Twitter is the way. Well, that's why social media generally is the way that it is, because it's monetizing toxicity. It's monetizing your anger, your frustrations, your I mean the political discussions are a gold mine for social media, because people's political opinions can be weaponized from the point of view of money that's earning the media corporations. And they do it unabashedly and, unashamedly, uh, because it's what drives their revenue. Whereas
Hmm.
within IMVU, you at least have control over the kind of content that you have access to, because you are the one that joins a particular room, or if we're talking specifically about rooms, you are the one that has control over that. Whereas with everything else on social media, in a general sense, whilst you can follow people, if you have access to a general, a home feed like you do on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and all that sort of stuff, the algorithm is feeding your attention, not
Hmm.
necessarily you. So the difference, I guess you could argue, the difference between IMVU from a chat perspective is that you have more control over who you have access to, whereas with, you only IMVU is only presenting you content from people you follow. Social media, in a
Hmm.
general sense, doesn't. It pushes stuff on you that's not even in your interests. It doesn't
Right.
care. It just, whatever will earn it the money that it needs to earn, it will shove that in front of your face, and it will do it from the point of view. I mean, particularly again with the politics. Politics is an easy one. That's why social media is a cesspool, because it's not there for communication purposes. It's there for the social media company to monetize your anger, your frustrations, your, as you were saying earlier, you're not knowing yourself. You're not knowing how you think about certain issues. It means that you can be directed to certain thinking processes, certain thought processes, certain ways of thinking. It means that you can be directed that way, and that can be weaponized to earn them the billions that they earn. and none
Right.
of it is to your benefit. Not a single thing.
Right.
I mean, in fact, this is one of the arguments physical arguments, as in, having an argument with somebody. uh, I used to do, we were talking about websites. I used to do website design for local businesses and, small businesses. So guest houses, all sorts of other small entities. And I would constantly have this argument with them that if you're going to have a website, if you're going to have a social media presence, keep your personal stuff separate from your business stuff. That's a golden rule.
Mm-hmm.
Creators need to do the same thing. Keep your personal profile separate from your creator, your business profile. Do not ever mix the two. If you have a problem with somebody, you don't post it on your business profile. If you
Right.
want to post it, you post it on your personal profile. Because that causes so many problems. People airing grievances on their personal, well, it's actually that, if it's IMVU, if it's to do with IMVU, it's their business account, particularly if they're a creator, but they're treating it like their personal account, which feeds into the whole social media is a cesspool, because
Right.
people are
Right.
mixing personal and business. If you post to social media from your IMVU creator account, you should be posting only things to do with your business as a creator. It's a big bugbear and creators get themselves into all sorts of problems ignoring that.
There's a gray area, I feel. I think it's okay. Like airing grievances is a big no-no. Like the
Personal
in the business
grievances
thing.
between other creators and business. Yeah, that
Yeah, yeah.
stuff you
That's a
shouldn't.
big
Don't
no-no.
just
That's
don't do that. Don't do it.
just don't do that.
Yeah, don't do it.
When it comes to like personal life stuff, I don't share. I have two separate accounts, and I have my
Yes.
personal account, and I have some of my IMView friends are on my personal account because they're my friends. I consider them my friends.
Yeah.
And then I have my IMVU accounts, and I sometimes post personal related stuff on my IMVU account, but it's limited.
Yes.
But it's to show that I am a person.
Yes.
I guess because some of these profiles become so corporatized, I guess would say, like they become inhuman at that point. And they're just, which is fine if that's the route you want to go. But for me personally, I want to show that I am a person, I'm a living being, and I have a life, and this isn't my life,
Yes. Yeah.
So
yeah.
But
yeah,
that's what I do.
Yeah,
personally.
There are exceptions to a degree, but as a general rule of thumb, do not mix your personal and your business accounts.
You can't have it one big hodgepodge because
no.
it's
Well, these days in particular, because if you're posting personal stuff to your business account, you might be operating as as under an actual business name. You might not necessarily be a registered business, a registered entity, but you might be using a business name. But you could be revealing all sorts of personal information that could be used against you. That's the other aspect of social media.
Yeah, that is also something to be aware of.
Yeah.
I don't know. They said there's a very fine line. You think about like celebrities, and some of them are very good at hiding their personal life.
Yeah, because they go through agents. Everything. There isn't. You'd be hard pushed. Even the most personable social media accounts by celebrities will be managed through an agency.
Mm-hmm.
Those that don't do that, there may be. It depends. Again, this is why, like you was just saying, it's the corporatization of social media accounts. Whether look at Henry Cavill recently. There's a couple of actors recently that have been let go from big franchises,
Mm-hmm.
and their personal accounts, just say, good luck with the project. And that's all they need to say.
Right.
Because, Henry Cavell, Hemsworth, all of them, those aren't real people. They're brands. They're not individuals. They're brands. That's how they make their money. They make their money from their appearances, their faces, their, what they do as actors. So they are a brand. So their personal opinions about things have absolutely nothing to do with their brand, as in the name that they bring to a particular venture. So when you see people getting themselves caught up in controversies, it's happened because they've forgotten that. And this is why actors go through agencies, or celebrities generally. They just go through agencies. Even people that you wouldn't think otherwise, like lecturers, other sort of social media personalities, influencers, like you were mentioning earlier. Influencers, they very rarely will be posting themselves. They will be posting those through agencies, through talent agencies. Everybody's registered with somebody, whether that's just one of those networks, those Twitch networks or those YouTube networks where they have a lot of creators as part of the group. So it's all managed, because what you are presenting on screen isn't a person. It's not an individual. It's a personality. So it's it's not necessarily that it's an act, but it's not you. It's just a presentation. It's something that is being displayed to people that can be used as a means of communication that can be completely separate. And this is how they do it. This is how they're able to do it. Their brand is Henry Cavill or Cavill, Hemsworth. That's the brand. But the person you have absolutely no idea about, because that's not what's being sold. What's being sold is Hemsworth, the 6'2" muscly, nice Aussie guy, because that's his brand. So his personal opinions about things aren't part of that metric, because it's got nothing to do with what he's selling.
Right.
And it's the same with creators. Creators should be thinking the same way, that their name as a creator is not them as a person. It's a brand. It's what they're selling.
Right. Exactly. So I don't know. I might be. I'm on a gray area. Personally, I sell myself as a brand as a whole. Miyaka's Creations. It includes my face, and I kind of use my platform to talk about things that are important to me. Some people, but I started out that way,
Well, put it this way. Put it this way. How many followers have you got on Twitch right now?
Twitch.
80.
I've 83.
Right. So imagine you have 1,000. Are you still the same? Are you going to be still the same person? Are you going to be able to? Are you going to be able to interact and maintain the presence that you have with 1,000 subscribers?
Probably not.
Right?
Probably not.
So what about 10,000?
No, definitely not. Then you need to get extra help.
Yeah. So what's the difference between 80 and 10,000 followers or subscribers?
Just the number of people you're interacting with.
Right. But for you, you can't be a person with 10,000 subscribers. You become a property. You become a brand at 10,000. So
Right.
now how you interact has to change. It's not
Right.
that you won't have any choice in the matter, because at that level, 10,000, 10,000, I mean, think of PewDiePie. What has he got? 30 million followers.
Something ridiculous. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. PewDiePie isn't the name of, I don't know his actual real name, but PewDiePie is a character. He can't possibly be his real self with 30 million followers, because his real self, I mean, he may bring some of his personality into what he's selling. PewDiePie is the thing that he is selling at 30 million. And it'd be the same for you or I at 10,000 followers. People are buying into the brand that is presented to them, not the person, not the individual that's necessarily behind it. So your thoughts on things may not necessarily be what people are actually wanting. It might be the thing that kind of catches them, but your thoughts on things aren't you off screen. It's just you that's presented on screen, and that's what people are seeing. That's what people are subscribing to and buying. That's what's being
Mm-hmm.
monetized, and that is a brand. It's a product. And this is the
True.
thing that creators need to understand, that even in IMVU with like 50 followers or 20 followers, 10 followers, it doesn't matter. As a creator, you are a brand. You're not a person. Your thoughts about things might be of interest tangentially, as a side. Like, our discussion today, we've talked about a lot of stuff, a heck of
Mm-hmm.
a lot of stuff. But that's not necessarily related to the brand that you and I present to the creators. So, my opinions about various things are completely irrelevant to the brand that is Cat's Bits or JazzKat on IMVU, or just Cat generally, in the same way that it is for you, Miyaka's Creations. Um, and and this is why you should try as hard, not you, the royal you, as in everybody.
You,
Yeah,
the royal we.
we as
We.
creators, we should endeavor to keep our private lives away from our businesses, our business. I mean, obviously there is a certain degree of crossover, because obviously, a person has to create the content.
Yep.
But it's that's why creators get themselves into a lot of hot water. It's because they get into arguments with other creators, because they're looking that they're interacting with people, not brands. If
Mm-hmm.
everybody was essentially separate, if you had your separate personal and business accounts, you wouldn't see half the problems that crop up, irrespective of people's disagreeable personalities, and those that seek trouble. Those that seek trouble, that mix personal and business, tend to be the ones that you would avoid in that situation.
Right.
Whereas, if, I mean, you might have an interesting take or opinion about something that you could post to your business account, but it would be related to your business account. So, for example, you might come across an interesting article about copyright, which we were talking about earlier, or you might have an interesting thought about copyright. You can talk about that, you can post about that, because that's related to your business. But there's not necessarily any sort of a personal opinion about, copyright being evil because it's, giving it one to the man or whatever it is. There's
Mm-hmm.
no, you can talk about that and keep it abstracted away from you as an individual. And it's something that a lot of people don't quite seem to grasp. And it's not just creators on IMVU. Like I was saying, when I was doing the IT stuff, businesses, flesh and blood, bricks and mortar businesses, wouldn't understand the difference. They wouldn't understand they don't understand the consequences of mixing the two together. And it's
Well, Disney's
difficult.
learning it right now, honestly.
Well, yeah, exactly.
Disney.
Yeah.
Disney is learning it right now.
Yes, yes,
The problem
exactly.
with in putting its opinion on something, and you're like,
yes.
people are like, I don't like your opinion.
No, I don't.
We're not watching
Yeah,
your stuff.
what's that got to do with whatever? And it's the same with everything. But that's
Right.
as a corporation, even as a corporation, like you were saying earlier, they've lost their way in terms of understanding who they are. And yep, it affects corporations. If you don't understand who you are and how you fit into your environment, it doesn't matter how much money you have. Somebody will lead you astray because you're an easy mark. In the same way that it's like I was listening to something not too long ago where, they were talking about pickpockets or, street thugs. And they were interviewing pickpockets and street thugs, what we would, I suppose you could call them petty criminals.
Yes.
They actually can tell by the way that you walk or your demeanor whether you are going to be their next target or not. They don't do it randomly. So if you're aware of the fact that, if you're aware of how you present in the real world, you throw the scent off for people that will do you ill will. But if you're not aware of that, you're an easy mark, and they can spot you a mile away. And it's the same thing with everything. If you don't know who you are, somebody else will tell you.
Right.
And that's where the problems start. And it affects individuals just as much as it does multi-billion dollar corporations.
When I was talking about discussing the things that are important to me, I'm referring to like causes, and I think a lot of corporations have causes that they donate to, or whatever. Yeah. And my cause is related to my cancer because I have a platform and I want to educate people on how easy it is to avoid this type of cancer. So I do talk about it fairly often. And I don't do it for pity or for people to feel sorry for me, because it's been 5 years.
Yeah.
It's awareness, because if I would have been aware of this cancer before I was diagnosed with it, I wouldn't have dealt with what I dealt with. So I'm not giving I'm not giving opinion. I'm giving facts. You know what I'm saying?
No, that's and that's
And the opinions, I think that's what needs to stay out of people's businessy accounts is your opinions on things, because most people don't care about your opinion.
No.
I mean, you could, if you're having a discussion, you could say, well, I feel this or I feel that, but you have to also be open in the discussion.
Yeah.
So that's my thought on that.
Yeah, no, it's pretty much the same, but it's the one thing, that creators need to get to grips with is that, the way that they interact with IMVU. So, to sort of swing this all the way back to what we were talking about with IMVU and how creators interact with IMVU and how they demand things from IMVU. Like we said, it gets tricky when there's earnings and income involved. Yes. But the problem is compounded by the fact that, people, creators are emotionally invested in the problems that crop up. Yeah, it is a big swing.
That is the big truth, the emotional.
And this is the problem is, like you were just saying, if you look at problems from the point of view of well, it's literally from the point of view of you're using IMVU Studio and a problem occurs, and rather than using the bug reporting tool, you just go on the forums and give it the what for, without any information about, what the problem was, what you were doing whilst you were doing it, what item you were deriving from,
It's almost as if they take it personally when the studio breaks or something.
Yes, it's an offense.
Like the studio is personally
Yes,
attacking them, so
it's
they have to
personally-
attack it back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But when we're talking about separating personal and business, what this allows you to do is, yes, it's frustrating because you were just doing a big room that has 2,000 million textures and it's crashed on you and you've lost the whole thing. Submit a bug report. Explain what you were doing, explain what you were deriving from, explain the 2 million textures that you were trying to import through an FBX file. That gets to them. The team do read those. Doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to respond straight away, but if there's a problem, explain it. If there's a problem, describe it. The more you can do that, the better. Effing and blinding on the forums doesn't help anybody. And of course, then the moderators come in, moderate your post, then that sends you off into the deep end even more. And then other people get off into the deep end and everybody gets into the deep end, and then soon the pool is full with poop.
With emotional people.
Yeah.
With no solutions, just
no.
Just...
And that's the problem with using your business and merging the two together. That's the problem. If you separate them, you'll find that you'll be able to manage because it's a business. Being a creator on IMVU is a business. You're on IMVU to earn money. It's not just IMVU, Second Life, all the other social medias, metaverses. It's a business opportunity. So, it's, if you can separate the two, do it. And it'll save you a lot of headaches, a lot of grief. And, you can ignore the people that then post nonsense to their accounts, trying to inflame, creator wars, accusing people of doing this, that, or the other.
Well,
I don't swear.
Talk about... No, I swear all the time. I'm trying to contain it because I'm being more I'm becoming more popular, I guess. Yes. No, not ladylike. That is not my goal, but I don't know what kind of audience I have. I swear in front of my kids, and they know not to swear in front of my parents. I even swear in front of my parents. I remember the first time I swore in front of my mom. She's like, April. I'm like, what? It's like, what? I'm an adult, Ma. I'm 30-something years old. This is,
Yeah.
A little while ago.
It's, I'm of the opinion that a cuss should be a surprise, not an expectation. If you swear, you have a reason to be swearing. It's not effing and blinding because because that's what cusses are. They're an expletive emphasis for something that's happened or something that you might be discussing. They're not designed to be used as a normal conversational tool. Effing blinding this and effing blinding that.
The people who use the people who use an F word like every other word, that's irritating because what's the point? It's like people using it's like another way to pause the conversation so they can think about what they're saying.
Yeah, that is a tricky one. The ums and the
I feel like when people but when it comes to swears, I have no opinion on how much swearing is too much swearing because that's a very personal thing,
Well, again,
like everybody's different.
Yeah, separating business from personal. On your personal account, you can swear as much as you want, but on your business account, that's not the kind of
So when I'm coming into the Twitch stream and I'm talking, I try to reduce the swears.
Yes.
Sometimes they pop out, But when
Yes.
I'm at home, all bets are off.
Yeah. Hello,
But it kind of
sailor.
bleeds over. It
Yeah.
kind of bleeds over a little bit. The reduction of the swears on the stream
Yeah.
is kind of bleeding over into my home life. It like kind of resetting my brain, I guess.
No, well, I was
Maybe.
just about to say, well, that's the thing. If cussing is easy,
Hmm.
it's very easy. So when you don't do it, or when you reduce the amount of cussing that you do, it forces you to think of other ways. It's like you know, you'll sometimes see kids cussing like there's no tomorrow. And with kids, they don't necessarily understand the full context of the cuss that they might be using. They just say it because they're repeating, they're aping
Yeah,
what
they've heard it.
people around they've heard it. So, if you can encourage kids not to, what that does is it causes them to use their imagination, their verbal imagination more, to get them to think about different ways of expressing whatever it is that they were thinking of. So, in the same way that we were talking about mixing business and personal, if you can reduce the amount of cussing that you do use, it forces you to think about how you are communicating with people.
Right.
A cuss, fudge, a, you know,
Fudge.
a cuss is, like I said, it's an emphasis. It's not necessarily, well, this is my own opinion anyway.
Hmm.
It's an emphasis for something. It's not a, a, a form. It shouldn't be necessarily used as a standard means of communication, because it doesn't mean it necessitates, just, but I mean, the mere fact of what it is that you're doing, because a cuss is highly emotional because of the nature of what it is. So what are you communicating to people? If you did something and cussed instead of doing something and explained what happened, what outcome changes? Do you get a different outcome because you've explained it?
Yeah, good point. There was there was something I was going to circle back to, and now it's gone.
Create a program, signing up
No,
for it,
I should have wrote it down.
copyright.
Nope, nope, nope. It was actually earlier in this conversation. Within the last, it was after the break of the hour, but I don't remember anymore.
Oh, the way the mind thinks.
Yeah, I could talk about psychology stuff all day because it's very
Yes.
fascinating.
Yeah, it
It's
is.
very
Yeah.
fascinating to me.
Yeah.
But we have been on for over 3 hours,
Oh, wow. Well,
so
that went quick.
yeah, went very quick. But my stomach's like, "Hey, you didn't eat lunch." I'm like, "Yeah, I'm talking."
Yeah, I'm busy. Food?
But it's
What's
like, "You
that?
didn't even have breakfast." I'm like, "Well, I don't eat breakfast normally anyway." But I got to
What's
say,
Jim?
this has been a very what?
No, Jimmy was scared to ask something. LOL.
Oh, oh, she's talking about narcissistic, talking about lint liquor. She likes that as a cuss word.
Oh, right.
Oh, you know
Yes.
what's
Yes.
really fun is if it's really fun if you use creative words as
No,
quote unquote cuss words.
exactly. Exactly. That's you. So you're forcing you're forcing your brain to think of more imaginative ways of expressing yourself, because essentially that's all a
Hmm.
cuss word is. It's just an emotive expression
Right,
that,
right.
you know um I mean, obviously the easy one is the F bombs.
Yes.
And there's literature on the different ways of how that's pronounced, and and all that sort of stuff. But yeah, more imaginative ways of using expletives and just made up words. It
Hmm.
still communicates whatever it is that you're using, or what you're trying to express, but it doesn't necessarily it's not necessarily falling back into that sort of rote unoriginal,
F word.
unimaginative, you know, and
What the F?
yeah, that's our problem, is that we're becoming quite rote with our language, even more so with social media. There's another thing with
Oh,
social
yes.
media. So yeah.
Yeah, so it's social media. I agree. Social media is destroying. Oh, dopamine.
Oh yes.
Dopamine. I
Yes.
want to talk a little bit about dopamine, and then we can kind of wrap this up.
Yes.
So, dopamine, the low grade dopamine that you get from social media,
Yep.
is kind of what is destroying our youth in a way,
Yes. Yeah.
mentally. Like
Yeah.
they don't know how. Yes, dopamine is very nice, but low grade dopamine is it's garbage. It's garbage. It's like that hit from that cigarette. It's that caffeine you get
Yeah.
from your
Yeah.
coffee. It's that little like button that you like. People
It's
in my
reward. Yeah, it's
it's but
reward
it's
without meaning.
but yeah, it's a meaningless reward. Exactly.
Yeah.
What, and I'm trying to teach this to my youngest because he is so bad at it. And and I think it's because I can't be with him all the time. He gets half his time with his father and half the time with me. But um, taking dopamine breaks, hiatus. What's detox? That's the
Yes.
word.
Yeah.
Dopamine detox, I think, is huge for your mental health. Like the
Yeah.
less that it's hard at first, but the less that you engage with those little tiny dopamine hits,
Yeah.
the less that you need them.
Yeah.
But it's like at first you're like you just want to okay, I'm used to grab my phone. I grab my phone to look at. No, back off. I don't need to look at my phone right now. I have other things going on.
Yeah.
Um that I think if people could like take dopamine vacations once in a while. I don't know how
Yeah.
often they would
Yeah.
be a lot happier, I
Yeah,
feel.
well, that's a tricky one for content
Yeah.
creators that are, tutorial writers, people that are answering questions, providing support. That's a tricky one because obviously
Mm-hmm.
you have to be uh, on the ball, so to speak, to a certain degree, which again that kind of feeds into what you were saying with this. I don't know what sort of grade of hit that would be, but um, you
Taking the weekend off, or
mm,
have like a
yeah,
day dedicated to
yeah,
not engaging at all. Like this is my
yes,
I'm going to go outside and enjoy nature, or I'm
yes,
gonna
yes,
yeah.
yeah.
But yeah, people who are getting mad because you're not uh, uh engaging with them whenever they
Available
want you
all
to
the
engage with
time.
them,
Yeah,
yeah, that's you setting a boundary,
yeah,
and that's good because they will learn
yes,
to understand that you are
yeah,
not available 100% of the time.
yeah. Well, you
So
can't be because of time zone
no,
differences. Yeah,
that and we're humans. We have lives.
yeah,
I have children. We have jobs.
yes, yeah,
It's too hot for day. Let's okay. Do you see what the temperature is right now, nurse? Right here, right now, it's 46 degrees. It's January. It's January. It's 46 degrees. I don't know what that translates into Celsius. I know a lot.
Is that
It's probably around
Fahrenheit?
Fahrenheit.
That's
So
cold.
it's above freezing.
Yeah, but that's still
It's like
cold.
probably 10.
Yeah,
I'm just guessing. Is that 10
yeah,
degrees Celsius?
something like
That's
that.
amazing. That's amazingly gorgeous for January for where I
Yeah,
live. I'm just
yeah,
saying. We're supposed
yeah,
to have like a foot of snow on the ground right now, and we don't, and I'm very disappointed. It makes me sad because it's supposed to be cold and snowing.
yeah,
Okay,
yeah,
that's my rant.
yeah.
Cat says it's cold. Well, you live in a temperate climate.
Yes, right now
You're
it's quite.
surrounded by water. You're
Yeah,
surrounded by water.
yeah, and the jet
I
stream.
have and the jet. I have well, it's that when that polar vortex comes
Yeah.
around,
Oh
it gets
yes,
pretty
yes.
dangerous. But
Yeah, yeah.
well, I
You can
was
do
just
that.
up in the UP, Jimmy. I was just up in the UP, and it wasn't that much colder.
Yeah,
But they
you
did
can
have
do
snow.
that. What's that hot water thing where you get
Oh
a
yeah, I did
bowl of.
that. Was a couple years ago. We had that
Yeah,
come by
yeah,
us. It was like -30. I think
yeah.
-40 is the same in both Celsius and Fahrenheit. By the way,
All
um,
right.
I think that's the same temperature. That's where they cross lines, if you know what I
Yeah.
mean.
Don't cross the streams.
Okay. It's dangerous. You might
Yeah,
undo all of reality or something.
yeah, yeah.
But anyway, so this has been an amazing conversation. Like I said, it's been 3.5. Well, minus the pitfall in
Yeah,
the
at the
beginning, trying to
beginning.
get
Yeah,
the ear. So
yeah,
that took 20 minutes. So it's been about just over 3 hours.
yeah.
Um, I think I'm going to continue these particular conversations with creators because I enjoy them and I enjoy learning about people
Mm,
and their how they, what they do and how they get into it, and it's
hmm.
very interesting to me.
Yeah.
Um, and you obviously are no exception. So it's
Yes.
72.
What's 72? Oh.
She lives in Florida.
Oh.
Yeah, it's 72. I would have my windows open wide at 72. That's room temperature. Like 20,
Yeah, the hottest
21, 21.
the hottest it gets here during the summer is about I think about 90 Fahrenheit.
That's pretty
So
warm.
that's about 30 centigrade or so.
Yeah.
30. I don't think it's ever gone above 40 in the UK.
That's yeah, that's I don't even
That
know.
40 centigrade, yes. So that'd be the high. That'd be 100 plus Fahrenheit, I guess.
Yeah, I think the highest I've ever experienced like 113 or something like that. That was hot.
Yeah, yeah.
So it might, yeah, around the 40-degree mark, whatever. But usually we're on the cooler end, but we're still humid. I have to imagine that you have a lot of humidity being surrounded by water though on an island during the
Uh,
summer. Maybe not.
no, it's not. It's. I mean, it's quite. It's actually quite dry during the summer. I mean,
Oh, interesting.
there isn't. I mean, I don't have a way of testing the humidity, but it's not. Because high humidity means that results in you perspiring a lot. Is it
Yes.
high humidity? Yeah, that
Yeah, the
doesn't.
humidity just makes it feel warmer than it actually is.
Yeah, no, it's we don't. I don't think we really get high humidity. I mean, if you are at the coast, you will obviously, but
Yes.
inland, I don't think.
So
I
you don't
don't
have
think
like
it's
any
some.
major airflow patterns that bring.
No, not
That's
really.
interesting. Well,
I
you
mean,
said
we
you're
have.
central.
Well, yes, more or less in the middle, but I mean, we would the Ireland, as in the actual Southern Ireland, they get the
Hmm.
brunt of the. Is it the Gulf Stream that comes in? I think it's the Gulf Stream,
Yeah, from in the
but
ocean or
yeah,
the
from
jet
the
stream.
jet stream. Well, yeah,
Okay.
yes, the jet stream from and but there's the ocean, the one in the ocean. I can't remember the name of it.
The ocean is the Gulf Stream, and then the jet stream's in the air.
Yeah, so we get those coming across from essentially Florida in the tropics. They twist their way, they
Yes.
wind their way up from there to Europe, but Ireland gets a lot of the brunt of that sort of moist, warm air from that
That's why they're
stream.
so
Yes,
green.
yeah, yes. That is why it's that's literally why it's called the Emerald Isle.
Yeah.
Because it's so green, and it's because of that. But I don't think I don't think the UK is necessarily high humidity.
Yeah. We since I'm so far north, depending on the air patterns, when a high pressure system passes over, and
Mm,
you know how it's either clockwise or counterclockwise, it will
yes.
bring up the air from the Gulf of Mexico all the
Mm,
way north to the Great
mm,
Lakes.
mm,
So when people from the south come to us during the summer, sometimes they're surprised how humid we can get. But
yes.
I mean, there's a very stark line where that humidity ends. If you start
Mm,
moving more west,
mm,
closer to the mountains, it becomes more desert because that
yes.
moisture stops.
Yes.
The
Because of the
mountains stop a
mountains.
lot of
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there's everything in this
Mm,
freaking country. We got
mm,
everything. We got the
mm,
desert, all the things, but so much to explore.
yes.
Uh, all right. Well, I'm hungry. I'm gonna eat,
Yes.
and
Well,
you will
yes.
probably need to get ready for bed or something. I don't know.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
It's
It's late.
nighttime. We're
Yeah.
midday. and it's a gorgeous day outside for me,
Mm-hmm.
at least. But it was lovely talking to you,
And you too.
for sure. It was
Mm.
very nice. You got a lovely voice, and I like to hear it.
I've got to put it to
But
some use.
yeah, we'll
I
keep making your tutorials.
Well, it's I'm thinking of doing audio books because people keep saying that.
Oh yes, yes, do that.
I mean,
It's a very soothing voice,
I've just got
and do like a.
Well,
You should read.
No, God, sorry.
So you should read the most violent audiobook in your most soothing voice.
I can't do that. I do not watch. No, seriously, I don't watch violent movies. I don't play violent games. And I
It would
don't.
just make it. It would just
do-
make it that more relaxing. He raised the hilt of his sword and
Yeah.
plunged it deep
No, that
into
kind
his
of stuff
chest.
would.
No.
Yeah, no, that would give me nightmares that I can't get out of my head. Yes,
Or the
no.
ASMR stuff.
Yeah, well,
Just
I have the microphone about a foot away from where I am positioned wise, because yeah, if you get too close to the microphone, it starts to change the character of what you're doing. So,
yes.
so yeah.
Moby Dick. Nurse says Moby Dick.
Oh, I could read that. That's also public domain, Moby Dick.
Uh-huh.
Yes.
Oh yes.
So anything
There you
that's
go.
read, I've got Alice in Wonderland as well, and all sorts of other things that I was going to do one for, Christmas Carol, Scrooge. But that's the other thing as well. Talking about language, then we'll call it quit. It's interesting reading those old books because they use language in a slightly different way, and they use different words.
That's
And
true.
it's interesting reading just something like Scrooge, and the way that that was Lewis Carroll, I think, wasn't it? The way that he writes certain words in that trip you up because they're such time sensitive words, in terms of, they were words used at the time, but we don't use them at all much now.
Mm-hmm.
And it's quite interesting reading the old books and seeing, coming across these words that we just don't use anymore.
Well, you should set up a separate YouTube channel.
Yeah,
And just
well,
for reading books.
that's the tricky thing, because obviously
You can't mix content. You can't mix
No,
content.
I know.
So
But
you call it
that's
Cat Spits Reads or something. I don't know.
no, that's the other thing. I mean, because that's one of the problems that you have as a content creator is how do you monetize? As you were saying earlier, YouTube is very particular about how they monetize and who they allow to monetize their content. So you just creating a YouTube account or an account doesn't automatically mean that you can be monetized. So you can produce all this content and never be monetized. And so how do you then reward your? How do you recompense the amount of time that it takes to do those things?
Yeah, well, with your type of situation, you can also sell it.
Oh yes, I mean that's
yeah.
the other thing with social media, is that's the other reason why you keep your personal and business separate, is that you should be directing all your traffic to your own website.
Yes.
You're not making money for them, you're making money for yourself.
Yes.
That's
you know
why,
what? You start with, you use the tools that they provide you, and then you move to your personal stuff side.
Yes.
That's yep.
Yeah. I mean, if you can, and you have a website, or you already have a website, that's what you should be using your social media for, is to drive traffic to your properties, not make money for them. You use them to make money for you.
I think she says she likes your shirt.
What shirt? Oh, yes,
the one you're wearing.
I didn't.
Wait, are you not wearing a shirt right now? What?
Of course I am. I've got a t-shirt, a fleece, a body warmer, another fleece, and a bigger fleece on top of that. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4. No, 1, 2, 3. Yeah, 5 layers.
Oh wow! I didn't even wear my sweater today because it's
Oh,
46 degrees outside.
yeah, no,
I'm wearing
it's
my hand sleeve, so
yeah,
I
it's
like my
been
hand
cold, but yeah.
sleeves. And your watch. You have a nice watch. Let me see here.
Oh, what is that? I don't know. I think that T-shirt might be by Roy. I'm not sure.
Roy.
He'd be somebody that would be interesting to talk to.
Yes. Yeah, I have a list of people that I need to ask, but I can only do one of these a month because it's takes a little bit of prep work
Well, not
and
only that,
stuff.
but
So.
it takes a lot out of you doing live streams.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
I do. I mean, I do the weekly streams, and it's sometimes like I don't feel like doing this today, but
yeah,
I've committed to it, so I'm
yeah,
doing it. And then I start doing it. I'm like, oh, it's fine.
yeah,
But if it's a really bad day, I'll tell people like I'm gonna probably do this one short
yeah,
because my energy levels are low. So,
yeah, yeah.
but
All
I
right.
always pre-warn
Well,
people.
we shall call it quits there then, I guess.
Alrighty.
And is this going? You'll probably have to split this into two highlights on Twitch because they have a 2 hour max on the highlights.
Oh, do they?
Well, if you
I don't.
don't,
I don't.
so what? How? Oh, do you? What
I
you do?
I usually
Upload.
I usually put everything onto YouTube.
So you upload a the one that you're recording.
Yes, everything. And whenever I do a Twitch stream, I later upload it on YouTube.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Just to keep it alive because
Yes. Yeah. No. Yeah. Because
I don't really
Twitch.
mess with Twitch. Twitch is
Yeah.
just
Twitch dies them after after about 5 days or something.
it's I thought it was like 2 weeks.
No, they changed it recently. They've reduced it down to like 5 or 6 days now.
Oh, I'll have to look at my past streams because I thought I had a couple weeks worth still in there.
Yeah, no, that if you're doing if you're doing these once a month, the one for Gaff, the one you did with Gaff, that'll be gone as a
Yeah, that
live
one's probably
stream.
gone.
Yeah,
It's a lot.
so
It's still up on. It's on YouTube though.
yeah, it will be on YouTube, obviously, because that's permanent
Yes.
relative to YouTube.
Right.
But yeah. Oh, okay. Well, that's
Right.
yeah. It's and no music as well, so there's no
Yep.
chance of
No
anything
music. I
being
don't.
muted.
Nope. I don't do music. I'm not going to do music on these because
Yeah,
I don't want anyone any blank spots. That's
yeah.
irritating.
It's crazy. Yeah,
So, and then again, when I do my live streams, I try to do the royalty free music, but sometimes they're not royalty free. They say they're
yeah,
royalty free and then they're later
yeah,
not, and that's irritating.
yeah,
So
yeah, yeah. Exactly.
it's but whatever. It bees what it bees.
Yeah,
It be what it be. I'll deal with it when I deal with it.
yeah.
All right. Um, any parting words before we sign off?
Separate your
Excelsior.
business from your personal accounts, please, people, and drive that traffic to your own properties. You're making money for you, not them.